Welcome to Pick Me Up, I'm Scared, the podcast.
I'm your host, Madeline.
And I'm your co-host, Kenna.
Okay, Kenna, you're back from vacation.
Yay, I had so much fun, although I missed everybody.
Yeah, you were in Japan.
Yeah, it was very, very fun.
What was your favorite thing about your trip?
I loved seeing my friends out there who I never get to see. We had like a nice picnic under the cherry blossom trees, and I saw some really, really cool temples in Kyoto, and I went to the onsen, and I just had a really, really nice time.
That sounds really nice.
And the food was really good. And I really liked seeing my friends, so I don't get to see very often.
Yeah, for sure. Especially during COVID, nobody could really travel, right?
Yeah.
So everybody was
Yeah.
so far away. Well, I'm sure even though you had a good vacation, you probably really missed me asking you inane questions to start every podcast episode.
I really, really missed it.
Yeah, I missed you too with the podcast.
I'm really good at answering multiple choice questions.
You really are. You truly are. This is really your chance to shine.
Not, to plug it, but I think they should put me on that NPR show where they ask the news questions.
Oh, is it? Wait, don't tell me.
Yes.
Okay, I've never heard this show, but I've heard people I know talk about it so much that I feel like I've the tangential cultural understanding of it.
Because I usually get the questions right. Oh, also, I'm kind of good at Jeopardy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I want to try, not that I have, a ton of free time, because in my free time, I need to watch my shows.
You watch your anime?
I need to watch I like how I say my shows, and when people are like, what are your shows? I'm like, anime.
Yeah, I like that you say shows, though, because it feels like maybe it's Days of Our Lives or something. It's like a what
feels
are they called?
Nostalgia. Oh, like the soap operas.
Soap operas, yes. A grandma would always be like, my shows are on.
But right now, okay, so I've been watching Chainsaw Man and Spy X Family, but they're on a break. Basically all my shows are kind of on a break, and I'm starting a new one, so I've been bouncing around shows. But,
right.
So I'm in a weird place right now. I don't have a show to obsess about.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I don't watch any good media, so I can't even recommend anything. I exclusively watch bad media. So I have nothing.
I think you watch great media.
Thank you. That's really nice.
You actually finally got me to watch an episode of The Bachelor.
Right, and that is quality media.
I realize, because I was always just I fucking hate these shows. I hate reality TV. And what I realized, you have to watch them with friends for commentary.
Yes.
You can't watch that by yourself. This is a community thing.
It is, and it's anthropological.
Yeah, because, okay, full disclosure, I'm a weirdo.
Yeah.
I do not understand normal society.
Right.
Where I'm just so people want to dress up in ball gowns and marry a stranger.
Yes.
I'm
the American dream.
Yeah, and everyone has the same hair.
They all have the Bachelor hair. I love that. I love the Bachelor hair. I kind of want myself now to try to get the Bachelor hair this year. I think that would be so funny.
I think that would be fucking hilarious, and people would be so confused.
I think it would be so cool. This is the period.
I would get it. I would be like, oh shit.
The Bachelor hair. Yeah. When I lived in San Francisco, I moved there and everyone was kind of punk. This was before tech really exploded there. This was a long time ago. And I remember being there and looking around and being like, what's the most punk thing I could do in this situation? And that's what I decided it would be, to look like a Barbie. So that's when I grew my hair really long and dyed it blonde and wore it in hot rollers every day and wore mini skirts and high heels. And
it's funny because I had the same experience, because when I was in college, I lived in Denver, and I lived at a punk warehouse, a DIY warehouse, and it was a weird, but I mainly went to grindcore shows.
Right.
And noise shows. But a lot of my friends, they lived at the Slaughterhouse, which was the grindcore warehouse. This was back in Denver, where all the cool people lived in warehouses. There'd be 8 people living in a warehouse. And I would always go to these grindcore shows dressed like a 70s groupie. I look like Farrah Fawcett. I would wear tube tops and hot pants.
I love that.
And I had my hair done all 70s style. It was blonde. blonder than it is. When I was younger, I was like naturally blonde. So I still had kind of like blonde hair and like, yeah, people used to call me princess at the shows and I get so mad because like,
yeah,
but it'd be funny because I'm like, the chick who called me princess, she was like, you know, she dressed like a crusty punk.
Yeah.
She drove a fucking Land Rover.
Oh. You know, like now I feel like there's like this bimbo resurgence and people are into it. And I think that that's really cool.
Hell yeah. Like, I love like it's almost like reclaiming Anna Nicole Smith as like actually like very fucking smart and funny and cool.
It is and because for me growing up in punk, I'm like, oh, like bimbo culture has always been very adjacent to punk to me because there's a lot of body mods. It's very body mod heavy. Like getting a boob job, like that shit is gnarly. People who get boob jobs, that is the most intense body mod. You got to be so tough to make it out of a boob job. Also, the places where like bimbos would get their tattoos, like I remember people would get the Playboy bunny tattooed on their hip bone, and I got a tattoo there, and it's the most painful spot I've ever been tattooed. I'm like, these bimbos are stronger than anybody I've ever met in my life. They also would get ankle tattoos. Painful spot for a tattoo.
Why are always the cute tattoos the toughest?
They are. So I always was like, yeah, these girls are really, really punk. And I think my timing was off when I tried to pull this look off in San Francisco. And I was not welcomed by the other feminine people who wanted to date feminine people. I think my presence there was violent at that time and I needed to reassess it. But now I think it's come around, and I think that it's really, really positive, and I'm enjoying it. But I will say, even in the punk scene, one thing I learned is that sometimes the girls who you would think would be the most down for the girls who like spoke the biggest game and were the most punk chicks, behind closed doors, they had the most internalized misogyny they still had to work through.
Yes, yes, it's like, it's fucking crazy because like, I actually was like, even though I dressed like, I like didn't, like, I had, like, maybe, like, dollar store mascara. I, like, went into, like, the punk house and, like, in the bathroom. Expensive Sephora makeup. Like, I was just, like... But also, in my mind, I was like, you're fucking rich, you poser. And then I was like, that doesn't... I'm like... And then I was like, wait, I'm playing the same game now. Yeah. I'm just like... Who's, like, but that was a big thing when, like, I was young. It's like, who's a fucking poser?
Well, that's like the Jawbreaker song, Boxcar.
Oh,
yeah. You're not punk and I'm telling everyone.
Yeah, and
I was one.
I love the phrase, girl boss, gatekeep, gaslight.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like that just, like,
yeah.
It just makes fun of people who keep it real.
Yeah. So this was, like, a really lovely kind of divergence for us, but now I have no idea how to get back to the actual topic of our episode.
Segue now.
Okay, segue now. I'm gonna ask you the question, and I already know the answer to the question to kick off today's episode, and it has absolutely nothing to do with anything we talked about before this.
Cool.
Okay, so it's gonna be so easy. We're easing you back into podcast content. Kenna, what is your astrological sign?
Oh, I'm a fucking Leo.
Yes, you are.
You're a Leo, too.
We're both Leos. We were both born in August. Now, Kenna, do you feel like when you read about Leos, like that those descriptions reflect you? Like, do you think that that's who you are as a person? Is a Leo the grindcore princess? See, I'm bringing it back. We're circling back.
Oh, I mean, yeah, a Leo would wear a fucking tube top to a grindcore show and potentially have, just the tits out.
Yeah.
Not on purpose. Just, if they come out, price of fashion.
You know what? I'm going to say a Leo might also show up at the gay space dressed like a bimbo Barbie when the timing was off and then be like, why isn't nobody getting what I'm trying to do? I think it's very funny. I think that I have the audacity too. That could also be a Leo with my hot roller bleached hair being like, no guys, I swear I'm like you. I'm safe to be around. And everyone's like, what the fuck? So I think maybe we are both the stereotypical Leos you hear about in that way.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Leo traits you hear about the most are like bad ones.
Oh yeah, like they're like the typical Leo. They're like is like Madonna. Like which I don't think Madonna is like. I don't know enough about Madonna to make like a judgment call, but they always say like the bitchy aspects of Madonna, like wants all the attention, like is a diva. Speaking of divas, guess who I share a birthday with?
Who?
Whitney Houston.
Oh.
And Gillian Anderson from the X-Files.
Oh, Gillian Anderson, not a stereotypical Leo, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I think Whitney Houston, pop star.
Yeah. Pop
right?
star. Yeah, it's very much like I think of like creative diva of.
Yeah, I always think like loud, obnoxious, narcissistic.
Yeah. I guess like I always, what's wild? The majority of my really close friends have been Leos.
Interesting. Yeah, my boyfriend's a Leo. You're a Leo. Oh, everybody at work. Like, I swear, like a third or a quarter of our office is Leos.
When I was in a band, 2 Leos.
Mm-hmm.
I also weirdly get along with Geminis, and everyone is out to like demonize Geminis.
Well, that's why that meme account on Instagram, Not All Geminis, is so funny.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, because I was always just like, oh, I love a Gemini. But then I'm also just like, also in my head, I'm like, astrological signs are like not real. Like, they're like, to me, they're like a way to communicate with people. And I especially like, it's like an easy open door to get people to talk about themselves or to talk about subjects that might be hard to segue into.
Oh, yes, I agree with all of this. Yeah, I think that like I do feel like even though the Leo traits are always kind of a burn, like it sounds like someone's insulting me, I do think I fall into a lot of them. But I think I told you this before, Kenna. I think that comes from this really intentional place from my childhood. I told you the story, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was a kid, I was like really, really painfully shy. Like if adults made eye contact with me, I would literally just burst into tears. And when I had to go out in public, I would walk behind my dad's leg, like really, really close, clutching the back of his jeans so that my face was just pushed up against the denim and I couldn't see anything but the denim of his jeans. Like I was really, really, really shy. And I was really small for my grade. And I was like nerdy. I did well in school. So I got picked on a lot. Just stereotypical nerd. Like very, very stereotypical nerd. But my mom was a Leo. And she was always like hot and fun and cool. Everyone loved my mom. So sometimes she would read our horoscope like in the morning to both me and her. And I remember as a kid, it never sounded like me. It was the opposite of me. But it was always her. And because she was so beautiful and fun and smart and charming, I finally decided one day that my life would be a lot better if I tried to be like her, if I tried to be like a stereotypical Leo, like the life of the party, very confident, very talkative, rather than this painfully shy and afraid little kid who was having a hard time existing in the world. So I did literally intentionally craft my personality to be more like my horoscope as like a survival skill maybe. I don't know. But it stuck, and I still do have a lot of those traits today. So obviously we think of our sign like, our astrological sign. We're talking about Western astrology, and that's just our sun sign. That's what it's called, right? But everyone has a lot more than that. We have like the whole chart each, and it's all of these things that correlate to supposedly different planets that control different elements of our personality. And people usually, when they get into astrology anyway, they move away from your sun sign into talking about this thing called your big 3. Right? You know about the big 3, Kenna?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so Kenna, what are your big 3? Your sun, your moon, and your rising.
Okay, sun, I believe, is like, that's like Leo.
That's Leo, yes.
Like, that's like what you're born. It's like the day that you're born.
Yes.
And I guess it's supposed to be like your, kind of like your personality. Like, you come across as like, Leo or whatever. I've heard a lot of different things about the big 3 where it's like, represents different things, but... So your rising sign, your rising and your moon sign are based off of the time and place you were born.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born in Colorado at night. So my rising sign is Aries.
Yes.
And my moon sign is Gemini. And I told this to our coworker, and they were like, wow, chaotic.
I actually knew what your rising and your moon were because I have you in my co-star.
Yes.
Yes. And my sun is Leo, obviously, yes. And my moon is Capricorn and my rising is Virgo.
Ooh, I think, okay, this makes sense to me.
I was going to say,
your
usually,
rising is kind of like how you act like day to day. Like that's what I've heard. Like
how people see you.
Yeah, I've heard that basically the big 3, someone broke this down where it's like your subconscious subconscious, and id.
Oh, that's a pretty interesting way to think about it.
Like your moon, or I forget which one is which. I believe like your conscious is your rising sign. Your subconscious is your sun, and your id is, or wait, your subconscious is your moon, and your
id is your sun.
Yes.
That would make total sense. Usually when I tell people my big three, they do exactly what you just did. They nod and they go, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. They always have that response.
Although my boyfriend told me his, and I was like, this is not you at all.
What are they?
He's a Virgo.
Okay.
With, oh God, what was it? It was like, I think it was like Capricorn rising and like Aries. It was something like that did not like.
It's like me. It's very similar to me, but in all the different places.
Yeah, but like, I think that.
We're not very similar people.
You're not very similar people.
No, we're not.
At all.
I like him very much. We are not very similar people. That's really interesting. Yeah, I feel like mine makes so much sense that our friend Sarah, who's really into astrology, but she calls it wingdings. She's like, yeah, I'm really good at wingdings. She was able to correctly guess both my Mars and my Venus, which are pretty in the weeds. And I'm told that controls how you fight and how you love. She guessed them, and then she made me pull up my chart, and then she squealed, I am so good at wingdings, because she was correct. And I feel like for bonus content for our Patreon, we'll have to post both Kenna and our full chart, because people ask a lot for me. So, and I have both of our charts saved in CoStar and the pattern.
Oh,
in my
very
phone.
nice.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't reveal what my Mars and Mercury are yet.
No, I think that'll be special Patreon bonus content.
Yeah.
Yes. And our Patreon is patreon.com/pickmeup.
Yeah, we forgot to do that in the housekeeping at the beginning.
But you know what? We're easing back into it.
We're easing back into it. But we do have a Patreon where we might post astrology.
You know, it's true. We're going to post that. And then I cooked up a fun bonus episode for us this week to kind of go along with our main episode. And it's going to be about tarot cards. So
yeah,
that interests you. You can see our charts and hear this week's bonus episode on our Patreon.
And we call them bonies.
And we do call them bonies. That's accurate. So kind of though, the CoStar thing, you know, CoStar actually tells us how compatible we are.
Oh, yeah. What did it say?
Okay. Well, it turns out we are really, really compatible with our basic identities, our intellect, and our communication. And we are just kind of okay when it comes to our moods and emotions, our sex and aggression, our philosophies of life, and our sense of responsibility. And we do not at all get along when it comes to love and pleasure. So we should never fall in love, Kenna, according to astrology.
You know what? The thought had never crossed my mind.
Mine either, but now I know it's a no-go. So at least we really closed
I'm glad that we like formally did that, but I didn't even know that was an option.
Me neither. But, you know, CoStar did. And CoStar was like, do not go in here.
I'm like, I'm sorry and congratulations.
Yes, yes.
That's what I say now when people are like, oh yeah, I broke up with so-and-so. I'm like, I'm sorry or congratulations.
Yeah, both. Also, according to the pattern, I ran like a friendship bond on us, and it says we have a chill bond. And it says we have a rare, life-changing bond that's one of the strongest you can have in a friendship. It's called enjoyable and exceptional.
Aww.
And that we are good at talking to each other, and we support and encourage each other, but also apparently that we are unpredictable and wild cards in each other's lives. So there's that.
Oh.
Which might also be why we can never fall in love. Too chaotic.
We would be too much of a power couple.
We would be the Leo power couple. And I would become a bimbo again, and we would be the Leo bimbo power couple.
Yeah, I don't know what I would become.
I would dye my hair blonde again, and we could be the blonde
Oh,
Leo
what if we...
bimbo power
Honestly,
couple.
I will say I love to match.
Right.
Me and my boyfriend totally matched when we were in Japan.
You know what? I saw some of your photos, and I did see some matching vest moments happening there. Yeah, I did. I didn't want to point it out, you know, but I was like, okay, nice.
It's, but I do, you know what? I noticed, like, I have always loved, like, I like twinning with a friend or a partner if they're not weird about it.
Yes.
But it has to be unspoken. You can't,
interesting.
Like, I like twinning if we just happen to be, like, wearing the same thing, but I don't like to plan it. That seems too forced.
I have this thing where I tend to fall into accidentally very codependent relationships. So like friendships mostly. So when somebody is like, let's also dress alike, I'm like, it's too literal. Like we already have some chaotic, dark connection happening here with our friendship. It's like too intense. We can't look the same too. It's very like The Shining or something.
I'm just like baby voice, like we're friends.
Also though, on the pattern, you can run your bond with random famous people.
Oh, who are you compatible with?
Well, first let me tell you who my boyfriend is compatible with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My boyfriend,
I think I know this one.
You do. Astrologically, a perfect match for Paris Hilton.
Wow.
They would apparently be in love, a love so pure, so deep, so real that it would go on forever.
Wow.
I ran my bond with Elon Musk. That was my fun one I just did. And it turns out we would be complicated.
I could see that.
Yeah, I really thought I would just kill him. You know what
I think though is like you always want to figure out like how people tick, and I think that there would be something like I think like 99% you'd be like this fucking dude, like fuck this guy, but there'd be 1% you're like there's this one thing.
You think I could fix him is what you're saying. You think I could fix Elon Musk.
I think that there would be one thing that you're like, I think I can do this.
Yeah, well, apparently my presence would, quote, activate his wounds. Which I'm sorry. Obviously, that felt pretty good to hear. Like, who doesn't want to activate Elon Musk's wounds?
It literally sounds like you're going to stab him.
Yeah, in an open, gaping wound that I probably already put there just at an earlier date. And I do love knowing that in another universe somewhere, you know, the theory where it's like every potential reality exists all at once.
No.
I am actively tormenting Elon Musk. Like, I have Elon Musk in some sort of psychologically manipulative and abusive relationship, and I'm just ruining his life.
That you're a hot pinhead, and he's in the Hellraiser box.
Yes. Oh my god, I love that. That's probably happening somewhere too. That's like karmic justice.
If anyone is good at cartooning, I would love to see that.
Me, hot pinhead, Elon Musk, Hellraiser box. So Kenna, here's where I was gonna actually ask you if you believe in astrology, but you kind of already summed it up. And what you said is actually how I feel too. Like, I don't believe astrology is real, like literally at all. But, you know, there is the thing where maybe if you're exposed to it, your personality, either consciously or subconsciously, will meld to fit your zodiac sign a little bit. But also I agree with the thing you said, where it's like a good way to get people to talk about themselves and each other in like terms you can understand.
Yeah, and like, why do you think in like the 60s and 70s, like what, like a pickup line was, what's your sign?
Right, because you can get to know a lot about a person.
I mean, it's still a pickup line now.
Yeah, and then you also know like what parts of it somebody identifies with themselves.
Yeah, because it's a way for it. Honestly, I feel like it's a way for people to get to know themselves. And I feel like I was like watching this TikTok today, and this English like creative writing professor was talking about how her students now feel really disconnected from themselves and their bodies, because she was like, you know, it's been happening over the past like maybe 20 years, you know, something's happening. But she was like, there used to be like, someone would describe a hug and they'd be like, it felt warm and soft, and you could describe the smells and tastes. And she's like, I see way less descriptors now. And like, she was like talking to a student and asking them like, what does a hug feel like? And they were like, I don't know. I've never felt anything like with a hug. Like,
yeah.
Where it's just like, I think a lot of times, there's just something about what's going on. I wouldn't put my finger on it, where we don't know as much about ourselves. Like maybe because we don't have as much time to ourselves, we have more media, maybe life is just harder, we're working more.
I think that's a thing. I think it's a luxury to get to know yourself.
I think it's a luxury to get to know yourself, because like it's just like, I think society now, you spend more of your life doing things that are necessary to modern survival.
Yeah, that's true. We're in survival mode all the time.
Where it's
now.
like, but it's like things that are necessary to your survival. Like, you know, you think about like, I gotta breathe air, drink water, eat food, and sleep. But like, there's other things too. Like, you have to have a job. You have to have social connection. You got to have a phone. You got to know how to use the phone. You got to know how to use a computer. It's just like...
You got a lot of bills to pay electronically.
Yeah, it's just like there's a lot of bureaucracy. Like, basically, totally. I think that, like, there's just a lot of, like, bullshit work. Like, I think there's so much bullshit work and just bureaucracy built into our everyday lives. And none of this was summed up more as when I had to buy a ticket for the train pass online and get it. It's like just stuff like that. I think like takes up a lot of our mental space, and so we don't. Even though like it seems like I think there's this thing in the media where they're like social media is making people more narcissistic. I would actually say that social media is taking away from people knowing themselves as much.
That might be true. I mean, I
this
feel
is
like...
one, this is very like, this is a hot take,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with social media, like, facilitates communication, and like anything that facilitates any communication style can be used for good and evil,
Exactly.
And
like,
it's the same with astrology, communication style.
Yeah, and I think that like asking what's your sign is a way to get to know people and get to know and to discover about yourself, being like, does this thing about my astrology ring true for me?
It's like a prompt.
It's a prompt
for
like,
introspection.
Yeah, like things that ring true for me about being a Leo is like being creative, liking attention, which I did. It's funny because I think most people would be like, would think that I don't like attention, but I do.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be a pop star at age 40.
Yeah, when I turn 40, I'm going to be a pop star.
Yes.
I have a new name for my project.
Oh, what is it?
Strawberry Star.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I'll have to make sure. I have to see if the name is already taken. I might have to spell it with, a number.
Oh, the number 4 instead of an A. Oh, I love that.
But
yeah.
like, I think like being creative, like I love, like, I think a lot of it is like I love to sing. I love to do music. I love to
perform.
I love to perform, and I only realized during the pandemic, I am a people person. Like, I like being around people. Yeah. It just takes a lot of energy to be around people.
Right. I feel like an interesting thing about astrology is that it's kind of like also one of those things where it's an expectation of how you'll act. And we know that, scientifically we know this, that people do act different based on what they feel is expected of them.
Yeah, and it's so funny. For many years, I thought I was a Pisces rising because I had my birth time wrong.
Oh.
But I'm actually an Aries rising, which everything that I've read about, like, my rising sign in conjunction with my, like, my sun sign, Leo, is, like, basically I'm supposed to be, like, an aggressive dick.
Oh, interesting.
And I do feel like in some ways I can get very aggressive. Like, when I was a kid, I could get really, like, like, I could, like, snap. But, like, as an adult, I, like, don't really...
You're not aggressive at all,
I don't feel... I mean, maybe inwardly sometimes I'm, like, pretty fucking pissed. But, like, I'm really good at regulating
You stand
my
up
anger.
For yourself, though. That's a good thing.
I think when push comes to shove, like... Yeah. Like, I will. Like, yeah. But... Like, there's a point when I will snap. And right. I really try to pull myself back from snapping because I don't think anyone's ever seen me really snap.
Right. Like, we have these studies kind of about this idea of how, like, your behavior will change based on what people are expected of you. And the best studies we have of it are the classroom studies. So, like, in a classroom, we found that if a teacher expects a student to perform better, the student will. And if a teacher expects a student to perform poorly, they will. And in 1964, a Harvard professor in psychology did a study about this. His name was Robert Rosenthal. And he did this study in an elementary school in the SF Bay Area, like San Francisco Bay Area. So he selected these students at random and told their teachers that he had this special test from Harvard that he gave all the students. And that test would predict which students would perform the best academically over the next few years. But he just randomly selected kids from the class and was like, yep, these kids did the best on the test. They're going to be so smart. And over the next 2 years, Rosenthal then tracked their academic progress. And what he found is that the randomly selected students started to perform better in academic settings.
Wow.
And it's because the teachers expected those kids to be gifted. So the teachers then started giving them more time to answer questions, more specific feedback, and more approval, even in, like, things that you wouldn't expect. Consistently, like, touching in an encouraging way, like an arm or a hand or a shoulder, or nodding and smiling as the kids worked through problems more. So yeah, we do know that expectations can guide our performance in many ways in life. And if we expect to behave like our astrological sign, it just makes sense that we might be guided to lean more into the personality traits we have that closely reflect those of our sun sign, for example. And astrology is like a pretty socially acceptable way to build expectations of not only how you act, but also how other people around you should act, right? Like, one of my favorite tweets is from somebody whose handle is Spike in a Binder, and this is from August 14th, 2021, Leo season. And it says, gonna stop telling people I'm autistic. It just alienates me more. Now I'll say I'm overwhelmed and leaving this party where everyone is drunk. It smells like Febreze and cat litter because I'm a Virgo. They'd be like, yes, Earth sign. Go home and alphabetize something, queen. And I really love this tweet. I love it for so many reasons.
I feel like I've done this, like literally have used my astrology sign like as an excuse for shit.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, like some guy yelled at me I got a yelling match with some guy at the gas station. Who said my boyfriend probably looked like Pee Wee Herman, which was really funny.
Yes.
Some guy who was like just saying like really like vulgar things.
Yeah,
like,
he was trying to hit on you and you were like, no. And then he was like, your boyfriend probably looks like Pee Wee Herman.
And like, I was like, I think I came to the office. I'm like, well, that's my Aries rising. Like, that's me yelling at this guy.
Yeah.
Freaking parking lot. He deserved it. Even my therapist was like, yeah, that guy was a dick.
I mean, like, I really like this tweet because even though I don't believe astrology is scientifically accurate, I think it does a good job of explaining, like, why I still engage with astrology culturally, right? It's a way to communicate with other people, like Kenna was talking about. Like, if I tell people I love spreadsheets, they'll get it because they'll be like, oh my God, there's that Virgo rising, you know?
Yeah. And
I just think it's cool that we have this shorthand that we can use to easily communicate complicated things about ourselves that we identify with to other people. And, also we can just minimize the stuff that doesn't really apply to us anyway. It naturally will happen. That's how shorthand works. And I think like astrology just became so commonplace in our culture that I feel like you do need a passing knowledge of astrology just to engage with people on the day-to-day in your regular life. And this might be the longest intro to an episode we've ever had.
Because that was the intro.
This was the intro. But obviously, the topic for today's episode is astrology. It's astrology.
Very nice.
Okay, so long intro aside, Kenna, obviously there are a lot of different types of like mystical prediction systems, right? So what do you think of when you think of astrology? Like, what is astrology to you?
Astrology to me is like, it's like basically it's kind of like a weird, I would say like a system of beliefs based on when and where you were born.
Yeah, I feel like in my head, it's a form of divination. It has something to do with the placement of the planets.
Yeah, when you were born, and I'm a little bit like, well, what if they don't have it down to the exact second? Is that going to make a difference?
Yeah. And I think it's all based on like our solar system. And I think the seconds do make a difference. And I think that's what makes it different than other forms of divination, like tarot cards or runestones or numerology, because it has to do specifically with where the planets and the stars are in the sky, both now and where they were when you were born, because that all is used to determine what kind of person astrology thinks you are and what's going to happen to you in the future. And originally, astrology was considered to be like the same thing as astronomy because it was just the study of the stars. Right. So astronomy obviously is just the study of the location of planets and stars in the sky. And we have evidence that human beings have been tracking astronomy for a really, really long time. Like some of our earliest maps aren't maps of Earth at all. They're just maps of the sky. And they've been found in cave paintings and on mammoth tusks or bones carved with like lunar phases in them. And all this stuff was important to early people, especially because it coincided with these very real naturally occurring things throughout the seasons, like hunting and harvesting and migration you'd have to do based on weather. And you could use the planets to predict what season you were approaching or coming into, so you could plan for things like food and travel if you needed. And astronomy, because of this, is considered the oldest scientific discipline. And astronomy, not astrology, but astronomy, it is super scientific. Like, astronomers work alongside physicists to understand the nature of the universe and what happens in the sky. But even in ancient times, people were preoccupied still with the movement of the sun and the stars. So, like, ancient monuments, if you go back to, like, Stonehenge, that's 5,000 years old in the UK. And that was built to reflect, like, how the sun moved through the sky, which helped keep track of time and helped, like, organize life at this time where your existence really, really depended on the seasons, especially for how you would acquire food. There's also, like, art pieces that depict the moon and the stars, and those date back, like, several thousand years. There's this thing that's considered the world's oldest star map, which is from the Bronze Age. It's called the Nebra disk. Like, basically, since humans have been around, the study of astronomy has been super closely linked to our survival, and also, in the early phases, heavily linked to astrology as well. So, back in the day, like starting like 3000 BC, like astrology and astronomy were really heavily getting studied in Mesopotamia. And every time I think about Mesopotamia, I think about that B-52 song, Mesopotamia. Do you know that one? I was going to do a Fred voice, but maybe. Mesopotamia. It's a good song. It's a banger. It's from a later B-52's album. That's how you know it's good. But yeah, Mesopotamia was the historical region that's like modern day Iraq. And it was called the land between rivers. And it was home to like the Sumerians and the Babylonians and the Assyrians. And there was, of course, other types of astrology happening around the planet, like things that were practiced in China, for example. But the type that started in the region of Mesopotamia is the one that evolved into what we here in the West think of as astrology today. So originally, pretty close to that 3000 BC marker, early civilizations started to recognize prominent constellations and name them. And then we start to see people tracking what's called the 5 wandering stars, which are just the planets you can see if you look up in the sky with like an unaided eye. So that would be like Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, because they're moving differently. Then by around 1700s BC, the Babylonians start to get really into astronomy. So they start charting those planets, right, that we talked about, all their movement. And it led to them making pretty significant mathematical discoveries in like geometry, interestingly enough. They were using geometry to get better understandings of how these planets were moving. So we see pretty early on both astronomy and astrology are actually like leading to these major scientific developments. And the Babylonians, who are also sometimes called the Chaldeans, I think. Have you ever heard of this? Yeah, there's like a region called like Chaldea or something. They're thought to have had the foremost astrological experts in the world of the time period. They were really into this. So the Babylonians developed this idea of the zodiac, which was the sequence of constellations that the sun and the planets appeared to move through in the sky. That's what the zodiac is. And the Babylonians were like, look, if we can divide these segments of the sky into equal, recognizable sections, we can use the passage of the planets through these segments to keep track of time on this like celestial level. So they chose 12 constellations to represent these segments. It wasn't called the zodiac yet, though. That wouldn't come along till later with the Greeks, who would describe these constellations as an animal circle based on the fact that most of the constellations were named after animals. And if you think about what a chart looks like an astrological chart, it looks like a circle with different pieces broken up by different planets and constellations that have to do with animals.
Like a space pizza.
Yes, like a space pizza animal circle in the sky. And, the Greeks, the animal circle name literally translated into like Zodiacus Kyklos or something like that. And that was zodiac for short. So that's where we get that name. So the zodiac connects constellations with the time of year, which is pretty scientific. Then, though, it also started to link constellations with gods, which is obviously more spiritual. So both scientists, like astronomers, refer to the zodiac, and also astrologists, who aren't necessarily scientific but more spiritual, refer to the zodiac as well. So from Mesopotamia, astrology started to spread out. It spread to India, for example, in around the year 1000 BC. But India had its own system of astrology too. Like there's a thing called Vedic astrology that was popular in India, and it would use the same 12 zodiac signs as in the West, but it would also include like karmic interpretations. It determined the timing of the star signs on the basis of the actual physical positions of the sky's constellations, which is different than this like fixed date kind of system we used in Western astrology. And there are 3 different branches that come along with how astrology is practiced in India. They have their own version of astronomy, which is Siddhanta. Then there's also a version of astrology they use that predicts major events, which is Samhita. And then there are more detailed predictions called Hora. So they kind of had their own offshoot that developed. Also, another kind of different form of astrology than what we think of today was in China, which we mentioned a few seconds ago. So China was developing their own astrology also while all this was happening, and this had become pretty popular around the 5th century BC. So it was based on a lunar calendar and a 12-year cycle with different animals, right? There's the rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. And each one is in charge of like a year in those 12-year cycles. This wouldn't be based on any observation of the stars, though. It would be separate from astronomy. Instead, it would also rotate between other kind of elements that were going on. There was rotating between yin and yang, and rotating through 5 elements, which would be earth, metal, water, wood, and fire. And these combinations could be more detailed. So a person could be a yin water rabbit, for example.
Yeah. I think that I am a wood ox.
Oh, cool. That sounds tough. I like that. I'm really into that.
I just feel very boxy.
Yeah, I think it's rad.
Well, I feel like, like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he has to turn sideways to go into a door because his muscles are so big.
No, I don't know about this specifically, but this makes sense to me. Yeah.
Wait, what is your sign?
I don't know what mine is. Because I was born in a different year than you. 1 year different than you.
Yeah, we'll have to
I
look that
remember
up.
as a kid thinking it wasn't a cool one, though. Like, I definitely am not a dragon. I would have remembered that and thought that was very cool.
I don't think
I think I'm like a monkey or something, probably.
Yeah, I would have. I'm fine with the ox.
Yeah, the ox is
I'm
pretty
walking
cool.
through doors sideways because my muscles are big.
Yeah. I also would have liked to be a rat because I like rats. I think they're really cute, but I don't think I'm a rat. But, whatever. The entire Chinese zodiac cycle, it takes 60 years to complete because there's so many details going on. So it's super different than the Western versions that we see kind of developing along this time in other parts of the world. So around 280 BC, Berossus, who's a priest of Bel from Babylon, moved to the Greek island of Kos in order to teach astrology and Babylonian culture to the Greeks. So this is where we really see astrology enter Greek culture in Greece and kind of take off in popularity. So during the Hellenistic period, which is around 323 BC to 32 BC, astrology continued to spread throughout Greece and eventually evolved into this current Western form we think of today. Now, in Greece, they'd been tracking those original 5 wandering planets people could see without assistance, and those plus the sun and the moon were considered the 7 original planets, even though, the sun and the moon aren't technically planets. That's just what they were called. And in fact, the word planet is Greek for wanderer because people could see these wandering throughout the sky, moving throughout the sky in their orbit. But astrology added another element to the practice of astronomy that had already been occurring there. So in Greek astrological tradition, the heavens were divided up based on the 12 constellations of the zodiac. Greek astrologists believed that the bright stars that rise at intervals cast a spiritual influence, though, over human affairs. And this is where we see the astronomy and the astrology getting kind of melded together. So by 100 BC, the year 100 BC, there were actually 2 different forms of astrology being widely practiced in Greece. There was the reading of horoscopes, and then there was something called theurgic astrology, which translates to God work, which I think is pretty metal. It's very cool. So horoscopes were information, obviously, that would be provided about a person's past, present, and future, kind of like the ghosts that visit the old, rich, selfish guy in that Christmas movie.
Oh, the ghost of future present.
Yeah, right. That's kind of like horoscopes. Yeah.
Oh, like Scrooged.
Yes, exactly.
Although I think that's based off of A Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Carol is the movie I was thinking of, yeah. But then you have theurgic astrology, which is all about your soul's ascent into the stars and your personal transformation.
Ooh.
Right. So have you ever heard of this guy, Hipparchus, from kind of Greece around this time, the Hellenistic period?
No.
Okay. I hadn't either. But he's supposed to be the most famous astrologer of the Hellenistic period. He was a Greek astronomer, geographer, and mathematician. And he was active from 147 BC to 127 BC. And he was the first Greek to develop quantitative and accurate models for the motion of the sun and the moon. So we see people who are interested in astrology were actually doing very real scientific astronomy in order to get to the point where they could do the astrology, which is super interesting to me. This guy was also probably the first to develop a reliable method to predict solar eclipses, which is pretty cool. And he discovered the precession of the equinoxes, which is roughly like the 26,000-year rotation of the constellations relative to the Earth.
Whoa.
And what's wild is that thing in particular, the precession of the equinoxes, this probably should have profoundly challenged astrology in some way because it messed up this concrete finite idea of the sky's patterns, but instead astrology just kind of adapted to integrate it into the ideology.
Yeah, it seems like that's just a common thing where it's like, this is wrong, so we're doubling down.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool too because then you see astrology being this living thing that changes along with science. So science will be like, well, this happened and everything should be different. And everyone's like, oh, we'll just kind of roll with it. We'll integrate it. We'll make it make sense to us. We'll meld it all together.
Okay, so maybe not doubling down.
Yeah, but they do double down on the fact that astrology can be changed to work with people's lives.
Gotcha.
But it is pretty flexible. And then also during the Hellenistic period, Egypt came under Greek rule. So we start to see a lot of astrology also moving from Greece into Egypt. So there was Alexander the Great, right? And he was occupying the region Egypt, right? He founded the city of Alexandria, which was in Lower Egypt. And there, scholars created horoscope astrology by merging the astrology of the Babylonians that they had kind of imported into Greece, right? With the Egyptian tradition of this thing called the decant zodiac. Have you heard of this?
No.
Yeah, so this system had the Babylonian zodiac wheel that we talked about earlier with the animals and the constellations and the circle representing their position in the sky through time. But then it incorporated this Egyptian idea of dividing it into 36 sections of 10 degrees each. And this placed emphasis on the Greek idea of planetary gods, but also sign rulership and the 4 elements. And these decans, which were the decant zodiac, were also emphasized, which was the concept that originated in Egypt. So the decans were associated with 36 specific fixed stars, which have 10 degrees each, hence the 36-10, breakup of 360 degrees. When melded together with the Babylonian zodiac, 360 degrees, and the circle, which kind of makes sense, they started to be used to divide each of the 12 signs of the zodiac into thirds. So one of the more prominent parts of this Egyptian and Greek and Babylonian astrology mashup was the emphasis on the rising decan or the ascendant, right? Like your rising sign as we think of it now. And fun fact, that just translates to horoscopus in Greek, and that's where we get the word horoscope.
Whoa, interesting.
Right? And then also, we see that around this time, astrology spreading other places too, because we have evidence of astrology kind of making its way from this Egyptian-Greek mashup kind of way into Croatia. Yeah, so in 1999, researchers found what they think is the oldest astrologer's board that we've ever found. And it was 30 ivory fragments engraved with zodiac signs that were used to determine a person's horoscope. So this was found in Croatia in a cave looking out like over the Adriatic Sea. So these inscriptions were from the Greco-Roman astrological style, but the board is thought to date back to around the year 200 BC. And the board would have been used by an ancient astrologer to determine the position of the planet, sun, and moon at the time that a person was born. And the board itself is older than any of the written horoscopes from the Greco-Roman world that survived. But it just ended up in Croatia. And it lasted this long because the cave that it was found in had a section that had been sealed off more than 2,000 years ago, which, researchers kind of think probably was in response to a military campaign that was waged against the locals by the Romans, because the Roman Empire, they're moving through a lot of space. So the locals are like, we're going to get all of our valuables and keep them safe here in this cave in this secret walled off place. And it's really interesting when you read about the anthropologists discovering this, because they're like, nobody's been here in 2,000 years. When they were walking on the floor, there were limestone deposits that had created a thin kind of brittle, creme brulee style on top.
Whoa.
So when they walked in, it was cracking under their feet, and that's how they were like, nobody's been in here.
Whoa.
Yes, very interesting. So researchers think, there's a chance this board was actually made in Egypt and it just migrated because of the Roman Empire up through Croatia. Yeah, so we really see the significance of imperialism, honestly, in spreading astrology across these multiple different regions, like Holy Roman Empire.
The more I keep thinking about lately, historically, I've been like, a lot of our problems came from the Romans. I think it was reading that David Graeber book.
Oh, yeah. They were too decisive.
Where
they
it's
could have stayed put and chilled a little.
Yeah, but it has been on my mind a lot lately where I was like, these ancient Romans, man, they really fucked things up.
They might have. And this actually brings us to how astrology was happening in Rome. So by the 1st century AD, we end up with this emperor Tiberius in Rome. And he's the first emperor reported there to have a court astrologer just on staff. That's how popular astrology was getting.
Also had an astrologer.
Who?
Nancy Reagan.
Yes, she did, that crazy bitch. Fucking Nancy. I hate learning things about Nancy Reagan that kind of make me like her, because I don't like her. I don't like her.
You know the thing about the
bomb sloppy toppy.
Yes,
yeah.
The throat goat.
Yeah, right. And I've heard this about her, and
Which is weirdly makes her likable.
I know, and I got mad because I'm like, I don't want to like Nancy Reagan. These people were evil. But this just makes her kind of a fun slut, and I love fun sluts. And then I saw this other woman having the same like crisis of consciousness on Twitter, and she was like, do not get me wrong. I am not slut shaming Nancy Reagan. It is literally the only good thing this woman has ever done, and I still fucking hate her, and I'm mad that she even is a fun slut because it means I have to like one thing about her. And that is how I feel about Nancy Reagan. And also the astrology thing is kind of weird and fun if she weren't fucking Nancy Reagan.
Right? Oh my God.
So, complicated feelings about Nancy Reagan's two good traits, which are that she's slutty and likes astrology, which sounds like a good time, honestly. And I know she's not a good time. She's evil, evil, evil. But yeah, so whatever. Just like Nancy Reagan, Tiberius in Rome had this court astrologer. So he hired Thrasyllus of Mendes to do this job. So he was like a pretty big astrologer at the time.
That's a cool name.
It really is.
It's very metal.
Yeah. You know who else was like a really popular astrologist in Rome though?
Who?
Is Ptolemy. You remember Ptolemy?
Oh, like when you have like Ptolemaic arguments or whatever.
I mean, this guy did a lot. So by the 2nd century, Claudius Ptolemy was an astrologer, and he got so into trying to create accurate horoscopes that he started making really precise world maps just so he could better chart a person's birthplace to figure out where it aligned with the stars.
I think that's really freaking funny when like actual really useful stuff like maps comes out of like kind of bullshit stuff.
Yeah, like fun, like what if we could predict the future? Ooh, let's make a map.
Yeah, and you're like, no, we actually just needed the map.
We needed the map, but it's cool that you got here in this fun, mystical way.
Yeah. Also, it's so funny to me that people are really obsessed with the idea of the preordained, which I feel like that's what like astrology represents. And I remember listening to this one. I may have mentioned it on here before. You know, my working memory is not so great.
Same.
But like, where there was this experiment where they were like, we are going to they had like all this massive amounts of data in this computer, and they're like, we have all this data, 10 years worth of data on these kids, and we're going to make a prediction whether they graduate high school or not from them being in elementary school. And we have all this data about their lives, like everything they're doing. I think it was graduating from high school, but basically they're like, their rate of success for prediction, 0%.
Yes.
Like, people are very, like, humans, like, just in my experience in the world and this, like, what I've learned in history, are very fucking bad at predicting shit. Or people who are actually good at predicting shit, like, no one fucking listens to them.
Totally
Or they're
true.
like, or like people who are like good at predicting stuff, like, you know, they're kind of like, a lot of them are kind of nerdy, so people are just like, they don't like the delivery of the information.
Oh, that's such a thing. Yes.
Yeah, or it's just like, or maybe someone has like a good prediction model, but they can't communicate it in like layman speak.
Right.
But
you have to make
anyway,
it engaging for people.
People are very, very bad at predicting stuff, and I think astrology mitigates like the kind of existential dread that we have as humans of not knowing what's going to happen.
Oh, it totally does. And we get into that later. There's like a psychologist researched this phenomenon a lot.
I'm skipping ahead.
And it also, though, too, to what you were saying, takes away some of the accountability. Like, you can be like, well, I'm not saying this, the stars are saying it. So if it's wrong, don't blame me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, the bad way astrology is used is to not take accountability. Where I could be like, oh, I'm a fucking bitch. Oh, well, I'm a fucking Aries rising, so...
Deal with it.
Yeah, deal with it, bro.
Right. That's totally true.
Like, I'm not the problem. Like, I was meant to be this way.
Right.
I was watching some of that documentary, The Family. Have you ever heard of The Family?
I don't
Oh,
know.
this would be a great episode or bonus episode.
I think I have, actually. It's like the Christian...
Yeah,
yes,
like, basically, like, Christian lobbying group. And part of their... like, their version of Christianity is basically like, if a successful man does something fucked up, like, you know, because normally they're like, never cheat on your wife, be a good dad, be a promise keeper. But if a dude cheats on his wife and he's a terrible person, it's God's will. Like, he should be able to, because if you think about in the Bible, there was, if you think like King Solomon,
yeah,
and they're like, he was a great guy, blah, blah, blah. But he also was in love with like I want to say his best friend's wife. So you know what he did? He put him in the front lines of battle so he would get killed so he could
Wow.
have his wife.
This is like the thing about how my friend went to that Christian school when George W. Bush was president, and all of the girls would confess that they had fantasies about marrying George W. Bush, but they could only have the fantasy if Laura Bush had somehow tragically died. Otherwise, it was unethical.
Well, yeah.
They were doing a King Solomon.
But basically, they're like, yes, if you're a powerful man, like God has put you in that power, therefore you can do whatever the fuck you want because it has been preordained by God that you can do whatever the fuck you want if you are successful.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that like it could like what like this is a little, you know, not that extreme, but I think in the extreme people can use systems that have a lot of leeway in interpretation to abdicate responsibility.
I think that's totally true. Yeah, so like Ptolemy, when he was doing all of this, one of the things that you touched on that I think is also really funny is that he got really, really super into the map making, right? So the maps used to be like largely just like gestures. They would literally just be like, oh yeah, like here-ish, there's a big tree, and then if you pass the big tree, you end up in some other country and they don't like us, so don't go past the big tree or you'll just die. And that would be like kind of a map.
These sound like fun maps.
Yeah. But Ptolemy was like, no, we actually need to know how far the big tree is from here and what happens here and where this line is and what exactly is happening in this concrete way.
Because we have to know if they're Aries rising.
Yes, we have to know if they're an Aries, like we have to know if the emperor is divinely entitled to be a bitch or not. Yeah, basically. So he got so into map making that he literally coined the term geography. It came from him. So the study of locations of things on Earth, this all came because Ptolemy wanted to figure out where things on Earth best coordinated with star locations. And in the year 140, he published Tetrabiblos, which is one of the most famous astrology books of all time that explains all of the key elements of astrology that are still used today. Mm. So all of this is happening, and then this brings us to like the 600s, 700s kind of, and Islamic culture is starting to spread across areas that had previously been exposed to Greek culture throughout the Byzantine Empire. So Muslim conquerors in the region came into possession of Greek and Roman texts, and they preserved these texts, then they translated them into Arabic, and they studied them, and they built upon them. So they were pretty interested in philosophy and science. Now remember, since astrology was basically the same as astronomy in Greek culture at the time, astrology was treated as a science and it was preserved and integrated into a lot of Islamic cultures around that time.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually took an astronomy course in college and we went to like the observatory and stuff.
So cool.
But and my professor, when we did astronomy, he was like, it is not astrology, guys. And he did all the physics math to disprove astrology, basically. Yeah. And, you know, I really wish I could remember this professor's name because I have never had anyone break down science to where I could understand it. And, like, I passed a physics class with an A. That is like unheard of for me.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really interesting how like some teachers are just like so good at teaching that you understand.
And he was just like right out of college. I think maybe he was just like, he may have just been like also like right out of the military, which was
interesting.
Wild because, you know, this would have been 2005.
Oh, like Iraq, Afghanistan, 9/11 wars.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, and like, but he was such a great understanding teacher. He always had PowerPoints to like...
Interesting.
Yeah, like, I think about that guy a lot, and I can't even remember his freaking name. I would have to go, like, look online.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So, at this time, though, back in this day, astronomy and astrology were the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, like, sorry, professor, that's how it was.
Back in the day. And this kind of gets us up to the Middle Ages in Europe, all right? So this is a period that happens between the fall of Rome, Kenna's enemies, the Roman Empire, in 476.
The Roman Empire.
Kenna hates the Roman Empire. And the beginning of the Renaissance, which happened around the 1300s. So Western astrology by this point was actually really integrated into daily life in Europe. Like everyone was using it. Doctors, astronomers, mathematicians, you name it. Also, again, different types of astrology, but still really popular in India and China as well, their versions. And average people were also just relying on astrology. And the Getty actually has this really cool collection of illuminated manuscripts from the Middle Ages that aren't like the ones we think of that are like the biblical ones. They're just like random texts that have to do with like day-to-day life. And they show a lot about how astrology was integrated into people's day-to-day lives. So the Getty was explaining all year round from sunrise to sunset, people in medieval Europe regulated their lives based on the position and movements of heavenly luminaries, the sun and the moon, and also the planets and the stars that constitute the signs of the zodiac. So it's lumped in here with the other sciences at the time and really viewed as this legitimate and real thing. And at Cambridge University from like 1225 to 1250 during the Middle Ages, astrology was studied like as a real science. Then from about 500 to 1500, astronomy was also considered, just like astronomy, was required field of study for people who were going to school for anything, like including theology that was carefully observed based on the astrological relationship between the 12 signs of the zodiac and one's physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. So they'd be like, you have to study the position of the stars. It's part of like your general education in school, but also that does just naturally tie in with what we think of as astrology. So they were still kind of being used interchangeably. And so these manuscripts that the Getty had a collection of that they were talking about kind of showed astronomy and astrology and how they related to people at the time and how important they were. Like in the 5th and 6th century, there was a writer, Boethius, who assigned a musical value to each of the known planets at the time based on their position in the sky relative to Earth, similar to a musical scale, and made like a whole text about it.
Whoa.
And there were also these astronomical texts that were called miscellany, which illustrated the degree to which the cosmic forces were thought to influence just a normal person's life. So there were these like circular diagrams that declared the relationships between the luminaries or planets. And luminaries was just like the term they used for the sun and the moon because they weren't planets. And also the days of the week. So they would say things on here like Friday belongs to Venus.
Like Friday, I'm in love.
Friday, I'm in love. Friday belongs to Venus. The Cure knew what was up. There were also books of hours, which would have calendars showing the phases of the moon, which was used to make decisions about your life, from things like, you're supposed to fast now, or you're supposed to seek medical attention now. Like one diagram from a 1518 calendar manuscript indicated 54 major veins that could be drained according to the phases of the moon or the season of the year.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and honestly, this illustration is so fucking cool. It's like this body with like veins and blood and then like suns and planets and moons all around it. And I'm like, this is very cool artwork. Yeah. Very, very interesting. And each sign of the zodiac was also back then assigned a full month during the Middle Ages, which is different than today's astrology because, you know, we have a different dating system and it runs kind of through mid-months. Like August isn't Leo, right? Because my boyfriend was born July 27th and he's a Leo too. We're kind of like mid-month. But back then it would just be like, this is the month of this planet. This is what's happening. Also going on at the time and around the same time period, but in a different location, outside of Europe, we did start to see thinkers in Asia really think like, hey, we should be separating out this astronomy and astrology stuff. So there's this one guy, Al-Biruni, and in medieval Central Asia, he started to think like this actual science of the stars, astronomy, is a different thing than all these predictions we're coming up with based off of it. So he was this famous polymath and one of the first scholars to make this distinction in the late 10th and early 11th centuries. He was like, look, astronomy has scientific and like mathematical foundations, but astrology, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And he didn't just look at Asian astrology where he was. He also looked at the astrology that was being practiced in ancient Greece and in India and the Iranian plateau and Central Asia. So he was like, I'm looking at all of these and there is nothing here for the prediction stuff based in science. But he was really ahead of the game compared to like mainstream European academic thinkers. So that kind of gets us in Europe up to the Renaissance, which was the 1300s, the 1500s. And here we still see astrology thriving alongside the other sciences, treated just like a science. And one of the most famous people, I think, in the Renaissance kind of doing astrology was Galileo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember Galileo. He was a famous astronomer, but because astronomy and astrology were so closely linked, he was also a famous astrology dude. And he was found like guilty of heresy by the church, right?
I think I remember this.
Right, yeah. He was doing a bunch of work with astronomy in Italy. He was an early adopter of the telescope, which was just invented in the 17th century. He used the telescope to kind of sketch the surface of the moon, discover the main moons of Jupiter, and find sunspots on the sun. And on February 13th, 1633, he actually arrived in Rome to face charges of heresy for saying the Earth revolved around the sun, that Copernican model, which was really new at the time. And everyone was like, no. So he ended up pleading guilty in exchange for a lighter sentence, and he was put under house arrest for his work in astronomy until his death nearly a decade later.
Wow.
Yeah, and Einstein was like, yeah, Galileo was the father of modern science. So this guy, the father of modern science, he also believed in astrology. There was also Johannes Kepler. Do you know him?
Oh, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was a famous astronomer too, and he also practiced astrology. And his work in astrology was like super important at the time. Like this one historian, John North, said, had he not been an astrologer, he would very probably have failed to produce his planetary astronomy in the form we have it. Like the astrology was motivating him to do the science.
Yeah, well, the astrology is just motivating all the science.
It's just making science a little fun. You
Yeah,
know?
we need like cool creatures.
Yeah, we need some more mysticism in our science, I think.
Yeah, some more zhuzh.
Yeah, just to make it catchy, jazz it up a little.
Yeah, make it sexy.
Make it sexy. So Kepler thought planetary configurations physically affected human beings, as well as the weather on Earth. So in 1601, he wrote this thing called On the More Certain Foundations of Astrology, which explored all of his own ideas of astrology. And at least 800 horoscopes drawn up by Kepler still exist today that we can see.
Oh.
A lot of them are just like for his friends and family and himself, but he was really into it. More famously, though, he was known for all sorts of science shit. Like, he was the first person to discover that the orbit of Mars was like an ellipse, like a, you know.
Ellipses?
Just like an ellipse,
Oh.
elliptical rather than a circle.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you know what I mean?
Yes.
He also was the first to describe real, virtual, upright, and inverted images and magnification. He was the first to explain principles of how a telescope worked, first to discover and describe the properties of total internal reflection, first to investigate the formation of pictures with a pinhole camera, first to explain the process of vision by refraction within the eye, first to formulate eyeglass designing for nearsightedness and farsightedness, first to explain the use of both eyes for depth perception, first to correctly explain planetary motion, thereby becoming a founder of celestial mechanics and the first natural laws of modern science, being universal, verifiable, and precise. He was also the first to explain that tides are caused by the moon and the first to suggest that the sun rotates around its axis in Astronomia Nova. And if that wasn't enough, his book, Stereometrica Dolorium, formed the basis of integral calculus.
Wow.
Yeah, so this guy was like ridiculously smart, and he is remembered mostly for being a mathematician and astronomer. But again, he was a science guy, and astrology was considered science, so he's also an astrology guy. And then, though, the Renaissance comes to a close and we enter the Enlightenment era. And this is where people start to get a little skeptical of astrology. This is where we see it start to happen. People are feeling more like they want to believe in science. They want to get the astrology out of astronomy together in the West. But astrology is still being consumed for entertainment by the masses. And it's not fully separated from astronomy quite yet, even though it's moving in that direction. So in 1686, Joseph Moon wrote A Tutor to Astronomy and Geography, which still referenced astrology as both a science and a fortune-telling device. But he said astrology was a way to erect a figure of heaven, place the planets in it, find what aspects they bear each other, and in what places of heaven they are constituted. And also astrology, he said, was a way to judge the events of things by the figure erected. But his book did ultimately focus more on astronomy, the planetary studies only, the real hardcore science stuff. He did, though, reference other texts that readers could look into if they wanted more of the divination-based elements. So we see we're starting to get in this kind of headspace of separating them, but it's, it depends on who you're talking to and what books they're writing, what they think. Even, Kepler, right, who discovered the laws of planetary motion, was casting horoscopes for the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II during the Enlightenment. So, divination, science, the lines are still a little blurred. In 1739, Jacques Martin wrote about the history of astrology also, including ideas about what characteristics go along with different signs. And a few years later, in 1755, John Willem did the same, describing astrology as an art or a branch of mathematics, big or, which to judge of the effects and influences of the stars and to foretell future events by the situation and different aspects of the heavenly bodies. So he described astronomy as being natural, and any guesses about the future based on astrology would be judicial, is what he said, while also referencing Bible verses to like try to legitimize astrology, which is super interesting. And he noted that astrology was also pretty useful if you wanted to make a calendar, which it was. It was pretty useful. So by the 1800s, scientists were starting to get really annoyed that astrology was still linked so closely with astronomy, much like your teacher. Very, very annoyed with this. And they're like, no, okay, we're getting over this. Stop lumping astrology in with astronomy. And the Wonders of the Telescope came out in 1809, and their astronomy was fully separate from astrology. They referenced the zodiac only to describe and name regions of the sky. And this kind of recognition of astrology and astronomy being two totally different things, like one's just predictive divination, mystical, and the other being like a literal scientific planetary alignment of the stars, that really started to pick up steam. Like in 1869, Charles Mackay was writing Memoirs of Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds, which is just like a really angry title. And I kind of respect how petty it is. Like, all these people, it's extraordinarily popular and they're delusional and the crowd has gone mad. And it's exactly about what it sounds like. Like, he is just railing against astrology. He's like, this is this mass hysterical delusion. Why are we all pretending this is real? But it's worth noting that he had to write that because even though scientists by this time were like, yeah, there's no actual basis for astrology, we know this now, people were still just really into it. They thought it was cool and fun. And spirituality and mysticism were both gaining traction in England. People just wanted the spooky shit. And you know who one of the people who was like really into astrology was, who was considered like a scientific thinker at the time, was Carl Jung.
Oh, it makes sense.
It does, right? So he used astrology in his psychological analyses. Years later, he talked about this and he was like, the truth is that astrology flourishes as never before. There's a regular library of astrological books and magazines that sell for far better than the best scientific works. The Europeans and Americans who have horoscopes cast for them may be counted not by the 100,000, but by the million. Astrology is a flourishing industry. If such a large percentage of the population has an insatiable need for this counterpole to the scientific spirit, we can be sure that the collective psyche in every individual, be he never so scientific, has the psychological requirement in equally high degree. A certain kind of scientific skepticism and criticism in our time is nothing but a misplaced compensation of the powerful and deep-rooted superstitious impulses of the collective psyche. And I thought that was pretty interesting. He's just like, look, clearly science is alienating people. People are identifying more with astrology than science. It's just like more welcoming. So we see that around this time, even though we scientifically know astrology isn't doing all the stuff it's claiming to do, people are just like, yeah, but we just like it. Let us just have it. So this gets us to the 20th century, and astrology is still really appealing going into the 1900s. And this is when it starts to pop up in local newspapers in the form of horoscopes. Yeah, so in 1908, the New York Times had a headline that declared that President Theodore Roosevelt, a Sagittarius, might have been different if he'd had a different birthday, according to expert astrologer like Mademoiselle Humphrey at the time. So people are like in the news starting to get interested in astrology. And the Smithsonian says, you know, the first real newspaper horoscope column is widely credited to R.H. Naylor, a prominent British astrologer of the first half of the 20th century. Naylor was an assistant to high society neo-shaman Kiro, who was born William Warner, which is not as shamanic of a name, obviously, who'd read the Psalms of Mark Twain, Grover Cleveland, and Winston Churchill. Not the Psalms, the poems. Literally palm reading.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like the Psalms. No. Poems. And who was routinely tapped to do celebrity star charts. Kiro, however, wasn't available in August 1930 to do the horoscope for the recently born Princess Margaret. So Britain's Sunday Express newspaper asked Naylor. And because of this, Naylor ended up being like the newspaper horoscope guy in the future. This like really set some things in motion that made newspaper horoscopes very, very popular and cemented Naylor as the guy you go to. So Naylor used a natal star chart to do astrological readings and came up with a celebrity horoscope for this 3-day-old baby princess. Right. He was like, oh, her life's going to be eventful, which is pretty vague, not too interesting. Obviously, a princess's life is going to be eventful. And he was like, events of tremendous importance to the royal family and the nation will come about near her 7th year, which again, I'm sure very important things are happening to rich and powerful people who run countries that affect everybody in the nation all the time. Yeah. So this did end up being kind of true. Her uncle abdicated the throne that year to her father. But again, not super precise, right? Something interesting probably happens every year in a princess's life. But still, people loved this. So the paper starts running more and more of Naylor's predictions. So one of his next articles included a prediction that a British aircraft will be in danger between October 8th and October 15th. And then British airship R101 crashes outside of Paris on October 5th. And this killed 48 of the 54 people on board. And this tragedy was taken as evidence, proof that Naylor was really, really good at predicting things. It wasn't the right timeline, right? He said October 8th to 15th. This happened October 5th, but it was pretty close. And lots of people started to pay more attention to the column. And it turned into this weekly thing because of this. So at first, the column offered advice to people whose birthdays just fell that week. Soon, though, the papers were trying to hit wider audiences. And in 1937, Naylor decided to use sun signs to give horoscopes. So these newspaper horoscopes are usually pretty vague, but they operate as a good prompt, right? Like we talked about, for people to take a moment to be introspective about themselves and their lives. And I think that's the real art of the horoscope. You're writing a prompt that lots of people are going to read, and they need to be able to get some sort of satisfaction out of considering the things you're telling them to think about. So, in this 1948 study of horoscopes by psychologist Bertram Borer, horoscope recipients ranked their horoscopes out of 5 possible stars. How satisfied they were with them? 4.26.
Whoa.
Really, really, really satisfied. But in this study, every single participant received exactly the same horoscope. And they were just a random selection of people without much in common who had totally different birthdays. And they were all just given a horoscope and told it was for them personally. And they were like, yep, 4.26 stars. That's me. And this, to me, is the real art of the horoscope, right? It's a prompt for introspection. And if you can say something that makes people think about themselves in a different way or consider their relationship with other people in a meaningful way, it's pretty successful.
Yeah, the thing I don't like is this is just rife for grifters because you can be so vague. It's
can be so vague,
It's like the ghost lady who's says that she can speak to your dead relatives or whatever.
Super exploitative.
Yeah, where it's a name with an M and you're like, that's one of the most common starting an M or an S. Do you have a mother?
Yeah,
it's
mom. Yeah,
it's I think the thing that grinds my gears is when people astrologers take advantage of people who are in crisis,
grieving.
People who are don't who are maybe just fearful and just need some sort of guidance.
You never want to give your money to an astrologer like this, especially if you don't have a lot, or a mystic, especially if you don't have a lot of money.
For entertainment purposes only.
Totally. But yeah, these horoscopes, they were just vague enough, but also kind of specific enough to feel both personal and applicable. In that study where everybody did the 4.26 stars, the horoscopes they really liked and thought applied to them said, you have a great deal of unused capacity, which you have not turned to your advantage. While you have some personality weaknesses, you are generally able to compensate for them. At times, you have serious doubts as to whether you have made the right decision or done the right thing. At times, you are extroverted, affable, sociable, while at other times, you are introverted, wary, reserved. And it's people were like, yeah, that sounds like me. And it's just a description of a human experience. This could be anyone.
Wait, this reminds me of, I forget which podcast I was listening to or what thing, but they were this guy was there are 3 types of Terminators. There's good Terminators, there are neutral Terminators, and there's bad Terminators. And I'm that's just 3 things.
That's
good,
that's
neutral,
everything.
And bad.
Yeah, everything's one of those
there
things.
There are 3 types of people. There are good people, neutral people, and bad people.
It's true. It's very different than my real hot take, which is that there are 2 types of people. People who love Sublime and people who are fucking liars.
Exactly.
One type of person. But yeah, when you think about these statements, they're definitely still useful things to consider in your life. Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's kind of though, to me, it's just yes, people are nuanced. Sometimes sometimes I am happy. Sometimes I am sad.
Sometimes I want to be around people, but sometimes I want to be alone.
Wow, complicated person.
Right, but
Where it's
it
just like
is still fun to read it
like
and be like, that is me.
it's like
Oh.
universal things. It's like, you know, sometimes I am hungry, but sometimes I'm not.
Sometimes I'm full.
Sometimes I'm sleepy, but sometimes I have energy.
Yep. But still, it does give you this like really brief moment where you're like, oh, is that me? And you do. You think about yourself. You consider yourself. And maybe you don't consider yourself that often in your day-to-day life in the hustle and bustle. And this could be why today, roughly 1 in 3 people in the United States reads their horoscope at least once in a while. And in a 2009 poll, 26% of Americans say that they do believe in astrology still to this day.
I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I do check out the apps and just be like, what is my horoscope? And it's weird because like with the CoStar and Pattern apps, sometimes I catch myself being like, whoa, dude.
Oh, Pattern is wild to me because, again, I'm like, I don't believe this is real. I like science. And then I read Pattern and I'm like, yeah, this app knows everything about my life and everything that's going on. It is wild. And the first time I looked at Pattern and then I like went on Twitter and just searched it, it was all these people like losing their minds over how accurate Pattern app was. So whoever's working at the Pattern, they know what they're doing, and they're really good at crafting these things that seem very relatable, I think.
Yeah, I think, I did have, I got as a gift one time an astrology reading right before I moved to LA from Portland. And the lady was just like, it was so cute. Like she was just like a mom in her house, and all of it was like pictures of her kids like in soccer uniform, but between all the crystals. It was just
cool.
like crystals and kid pics.
I love that.
And she did an astrology reading for me, which I thought was very accurate. She's like, you're gonna move to LA, you're gonna go into business with an Aries. And I fucking did.
Wow.
But the thing is, it's like, it was also like kind of, it was like vague enough, and some things turned out to be, it was just like, looking back on it, I'm just like, honestly, it's kind of things that you would probably say to a good friend.
Yeah.
Be like, that you would just like guesstimate. Like, I bet if you move there, like, I bet you're going to make some new friends. I think things are going to be hard. Like, it's like, I would tell like a friend who was like younger and be like, I think you're going to move to a new city. I think it's going to be hard for a while. But you know what? I think that things are ultimately going to work out if you try really hard.
Yeah,
like,
that's
totally
kind of
like general
that's
life
just
advice.
That's why I think I could have the alternate career where I just cold read people and give them advice.
Well, that's why I think that you could be a professional tarot card reader for when you are done with fashion.
Yeah, totally.
For entertainment purposes only.
For entertainment purposes only. So I feel like this is a good place for us to actually talk about how Western astrology like operates, right? Like, what's a sun sign? What is astrology? And there are a lot of different components. Do you know all the components of like how your like birth chart works, your natal chart, and how astrology and the planets, blah, blah, blah.
When I was in middle school, I got this book that like showed you how to do like your own chart, but I've kind of forgotten a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe refresh my memory.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of different components. You got your signs, you got your elements, you got your planets, you got your decans, you got your houses, you name it. So the first part is the signs. And I feel like this is the stuff most of us are familiar with. There are 12 constellations in the zodiac. There's Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And, when we think about what our sign is, we're really just thinking about our sun sign, which is determined by where the sun was on your birthday, the day you were born. However, the placement of the moon and each of the other planets at the time of your birth, that's this whole other thing that also affects supposedly your personality, and all of that comes together in your birth chart. And each of these constellations correlates with what we think of as your sign, meaning in astrology, you're assigned one of the constellations, right, for your sun sign, and it also will tie to both an element and a planet. So your birth chart's really just a map of where all the planets were in the sky the second you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the second part of this is the elements. So each of these constellations, your sign that you're assigned, right, based on the constellation's position when you were born, whatever, they are grouped up into elements. 4 elements we use on the West are fire, earth, air, and water. So the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And these are all thought to be associated with people who are spontaneous, reactive, and assertive. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, all of which are thought to be associated with people who are reliable, practical, and sensual. Ooh. Yeah, the air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, all of which are thought to be associated with people who are intellectual, detached, and fair-minded. And the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, all of which are thought to be, having to do with people who are fluid, emotional, and intuitive. So, from here, the third component of all of this is qualities or modalities. So this one, a quality modality, everything can be either cardinal, fixed, or mutable. So the cardinal signs are the initiators of the zodiac, right? So these are people who might struggle with follow through, and the cardinal signs have to do with the seasons just starting. The fixed signs are the most resolute and stubborn of the zodiac, and those are the ones that kind of fall in the middle of an established season. And the mutable signs are the most adaptable, kind of wishy-washy signs, and they transition from one season to the next. So all of the zodiac signs, there are 4 of them per modality. So the cardinal ones would be Aries, which is the beginning of spring, Cancer, which is the beginning of summer, Libra, which is the beginning of fall, and Capricorn, which is the beginning of winter. Then the fixed ones are Taurus, which is mid-spring, Leo, which is mid-summer, Scorpio, which is mid-fall, and Aquarius, which is mid-winter. And then the mutable signs would be Gemini, end of spring, Virgo, end of summer, Sagittarius, end of fall, and Pisces, end of winter. So then the third component would be your planets, right? So the location of all of your planets during your birth, that's what goes onto your chart that we talked about. And this all is supposed to have something to do with your personality beyond your sun sign. So you have all sorts of different signs as a result, right? You got your sun, of course, that's your core identity, your self-image, the one we usually think about. There's also your moon, which is supposed to be your emotional compass, what brings you security, how you like to nurture and be nurtured. There's your Mercury, which is your communication style, how you think, how you listen. Your Venus, how you relate, how you show affection, your sense of beauty. Your Mars, which is your energy, how you take action, your sex drive. Your Jupiter, which is how you make your luck and experience abundance. There's your Saturn, which is how you face restriction, challenges, life lessons, and responsibilities. There's your Uranus, which is how you rebel and embrace what makes you different. There's your Neptune, which is how you imagine and dream. There's your Pluto, which is how you claim your power and experience transformation. There's your rising sign or ascendant, which we talked about at the beginning of the episode, which is how others perceive you. There's your midheaven, which is your professional image and destiny. There's your descendant, which is how you approach partnership. And then there's also this thing called Imam Kweli. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's like IC. Sometimes it's abbreviated, and that's your inner life. So these all are planets, obviously, and what position they are in relationship to the sky when you're born has to do with all of these. So they're all, again, still tied to one of the 12 zodiac signs. So usually, people ask about your big 3, right? That's your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign.
Oh, and I realized what I meant to say earlier was your ego, your super ego, and your id.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the
correlation.
Yeah, which is that Jungian or Nietzschean?
I think it's
Nietzschean.
I think it's Jung.
Yeah, who did the?
Or is it Freud?
Freud.
It's Freud. It's
so yeah, the Freud.
Yeah. And then the fourth thing that kind of goes along with determining your astrological blah, blah, blah is your deacons. Remember we talked about the deacons at the beginning? Oh. That was like the Egyptian thing we integrated into it?
Yes.
So remember, each sign is further subdivided into those deacons, the 36 segments that have 10 degrees each. And if you've ever met someone who just doesn't really seem like their sign, the deacons come in handy. There's lots of explanations why somebody may or may not be their sign.
Well, that's like my boyfriend who is a Virgo who is quite messy.
Well, it's probably about his deacons and not his ADHD.
Yeah.
Just saying.
He's not that, he's messy.
Yeah. These deacons explain, though, why someone might not seem like, for example, a traditional Virgo or a traditional Leo or whatever. So each of the 12 astrological signs occupies 30 degrees of the zodiac for a total of 360 degrees total, which makes the circle or the zodiac wheel. And those degrees are divided into 10-degree increments of 3 each. So your decan depends on where your birthday falls within that 30-degree spread. So the first 10 days or so of the zodiac sign will represent the first decan. And the second 10 will be the second decan. And the third 10 will be the third decan, all within that sign, right? Because each of them get, 3. And the idea is that if you're born into the first decan, you're going to be the most like your sign possible. So you will get assigned the planet that matches your sign. So for us, Kenna, for example, Leos, that would be the sun. But this only applies to Leos who were born between July 23rd and August 1st. So people like my boyfriend, actually. So he would represent as a typical Leo because he's born in the first decan.
Oh.
However, for someone like you, Kenna, who was born between August 2nd and August 11th, right? You're August 3rd? Did I remember right? Ninth. Sorry. I think Fern is the third. Maybe I don't know. Someone's the third.
Okay.
That's the second decan. And the second decan isn't going to be as much like your sign. It's going to be assigned a planet that's based on the secondary ruler of the next sign within the same element. So Kenna, since Leos are fire signs, you would get the next fire signs planet, which is Sagittarius, so Jupiter.
Oh.
Yeah, and that means that you're even brighter than typical Leos and you love adventures.
Ooh, I do love adventures, but I do get stressed out by them too.
Yeah,
I have, like, with the ADHD, I feel like the meme, like, there are two wolves inside.
Yeah.
Where it's like, on one hand, I'm just like, go, 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 go. I'm like, ah! Like, but then I'm also just like, too much, too much.
Yes.
But it's like, they're battling.
They are. The wolves inside you, yes, are battling.
The librarian wolf and the chaos wolf.
Yes. I have two wolves inside of me and they're both chaotic.
My chaos wolf is a lot smaller. It's like a little cub.
It's a husky.
It's a little, oh my gosh, you know what I saw the other day? I saw a Pomsky.
Oh, that's really cute.
A Pomeranian husky.
And it was little?
It was little and it was fluffy and it was really, really fun.
Oh, that sounds so cute.
And I'm like, I really wanted to pet it, but these other people were petting it. And now I'm just like, wait, so that's my chaos is the Pomsky.
Is the Pomsky.
And my librarian is...
Oh, the wolf.
Is the wolf.
Yeah.
It's like a wolf with glasses.
I love that. So the third decan for Leos is from August 12th to August 22nd, and that's me.
Ooh.
So I'm assigned the secondary ruler of the next sign after that in the same element, fire. So for Leos in the third decan, it would be Aries and the corresponding planet of Mars. And people like me then would be, wait for it, more explosive and aggressive than typical Leos. Which I really hate to say. Definitely checks out for me. That's correct.
Am I the golden... Oh, wait, who's the golden retriever, Leo? Me or Chris?
I think it's you. I think you're the golden retriever Leo, yeah.
And you are...
I am the wolf Leo.
You're the wolf Leo?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm the Pomsky Leo.
Yeah, you're the Pomsky, I'm the wolf, and Chris is like the poodle that has the full, like the standard poodle with a full cut.
Oh.
Very traditional Leo, very showy.
You know, I am gaining more respect for the big poodles. I
love a standard poodle.
But they're kind of like a little scary. Like... in my experience.
Like, in what way?
Like, they're not like Labradoodles. Like, where they're not like friendly dogs.
Oh, no, they are, and they're goofy.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
oh
I guess maybe maybe the three that I've met were not.
Oh,
we're not goofy
I
dogs.
knew this girl on the internet whose mom had two standard poodles and they were dog groomers. So the poodles were always perfectly groomed. And she would always post these videos of the dogs losing their mind, being like the most dog you've ever seen. Like going to the beach and just getting covered in mud and dirt and like jumping with their tongues lolled out. Just like the best dogs. And this is how I became obsessed with standard poodle.
Oh, and they have like the French style with the
Yes,
palms.
with the puffs. Yes, I love.
They're so cute. I saw... I feel like in Japan, I saw a lot of poodles.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So the fifth part of your astrological chart is your aspects. Have you ever heard of the aspects? This is like in the weeds to me, but it's interesting. It explains how your placements for all of the planets relate to each other. So there are 4 different types of aspects. There are conjunct, trine or trine, square or opposition, or sextile. So for conjunct, that would be like if you have placements that are in the same sign, they would be considered conjunct and they would work in tandem, which could make them more powerful. So Kenna, I looked up your chart and your sun is in strong conjunction with your Mercury, meaning you value mental pursuits and are quick-witted, but are also nervous and high-strung.
Oh.
Is that you? Do you feel like that relates to you?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm quick-witted, but I'm definitely high. You know me. I am high strung.
I
I
think
have
you're
cracked
witty.
a tooth from grinding my teeth.
I think you're very witty also.
Thank you. I don't, my boyfriend is always like, you're so funny, which is the first boyfriend I've ever said. And my response is always like, women are funny.
That's funny.
Chicks are funny.
Chicks are funny. The next one is that trine or trine. It's Trine.
Oh, I've heard it pronounced both ways, I think.
Okay, so if you have placements that are the same element, they form a harmonious angle and then they're able to like help each other function. So my sun is in trine with my Uranus, which I keep saying, I know.
Sorry, I'm going to be like Beavis and Bud, like,
I did the same thing when I was reading it. I'm no better than you. So this means that I'm independent and strong-willed, and I love freedom and hate conventionality. That's very
I'd
me.
say that's pretty spot on.
I also like to start new projects and make big changes in my life. And yes, this is 100% me.
Because you're always like, I have to blow up my life like every couple of years.
Yes, I do. Otherwise, I get too antsy. I'm like, something has to change.
You know, it's funny. I also need to blow up my life, but I feel like it goes in like 7-year increments.
Interesting.
Because that's like how long I like when I think about like when I lived in Portland for that long, and then I started getting antsy, and then I moved to LA. But honestly, I feel kind of like I'm in LA for the long haul. The only thing I could think of is maybe if I moved back to Colorado, and only because the weather is so perfect and I am a sunshine chick. Like, you know, because Colorado has 300 days of sunshine a year.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Los Angeles had the best weather, but obviously our weather has been garbage the past 2 weeks. It's been raining so much.
Like
not what
2
I signed
months.
up for. It's been horrible.
It's been freaking cold.
Yeah.
The only thing I miss are seasons. I love a fall.
I've never seen a season and I don't want to.
I love a fall. Spring in Colorado is just mud.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Okay,
love a fall.
I definitely, though, with the trine thing, yeah, I do need to explode my life a lot.
Yeah, you do.
The next one that could be an aspect is something square or opposition. So signs that are 3 signs apart would be called square, and signs that are 6 signs apart would be opposition. So placements that square one another can create tension that can be irritating or activating, and placements that are in opposition can be at odds with one another. So Kenna, your Mars is in opposition to your Jupiter, which means you're optimistic and seek out artistic outlets for your abundant, restless energy.
Yes.
That is you, right?
Yes, I have
you.
a lot of like creative projects, which are mainly half done. Like I said, I'm still working on becoming a pop star, but you know, I have 3 years left of my 30s, so
You don't have to get there yet.
But yeah, I was real like when people are like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I do fashion, but I also do a jewelry company, and then I also write a zine, and then I make music, and then I think there's something else that I do that's like creative."
Probably.
I forget. I think like I wanted to start something new.
You wanted to do like an like a book, like a animated book, like a manga.
Oh
or something.
yes, I wanted to do a graphic novel. I actually have been working on it. Shush.
Yeah.
I want to say the idea, but I also
No. Hold it. Keep
also,
it there.
but
Keep it
also
there.
my next zine is 100 TV and movie ideas.
Oh, that one's gonna be so good.
I just cannot. I want to share so bad, but what I've learned about Hollywood is you never say your ideas in public. Not even over.
No.
Like you
Not
don't
even over
say
telephone.
Yeah, like literally people are like, don't even say your idea in a coffee shop because people can overhear you.
And they will. They'll take it. Also, which you have a square on your chart. So your sun is square with your Saturn, which means you have a deep ambition.
You know, when I was younger, I was very ambitious, but the ADHD kept me from realizing my ambition, and it's like haha funny now, but like it actually really, really sucked.
It was
because
hard,
it's like
yeah.
I have all this drive to succeed, but I get very distracted.
Yes.
And I get very forgetful. So it's like, I have imagine like you are just like, you're very driven, but you also have to have a spoon with an egg in it at all time, and if you drop the egg, you're gonna die.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a good description of ADHD, actually.
Like, you can do all the stuff, it's just like, it's like for many things, though, it's like, it's really difficult to do certain tasks with an egg and a spoon. Like,
yeah.
For example, for me, traveling is like that.
Yes.
Because I have to keep my passport on me, my tickets, like all that stuff. Makes me lose my goddamn mind. Oh my god.
So the last part of the aspect here is the sextile. So this basically means...
Sorry, I almost did the cool Keith sextile. You know that song?
No.
Oh my god, no. Okay, just... I'm sorry, I'm just cringing at myself right now. Everybody listening, just forget I did that, please.
So this would be basically if you have placements like fire and air that are within 3 degrees of one another, or earth and water within 3 degrees of one another.
Oh.
So, for example, my Neptune is in strong sextile with my Pluto.
sorry.
I know.
I'm Beavis and Butthead.
It's also a band. There's like a cool band called Sextile.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that means that I have personal involvement with the energies of the collective.
Oh.
And this can be like a generational thing. So I think that sounds like me, but still not as compelling as the last aspect. And then the last one is the houses. So every natal chart is divided up into 12 houses. So there's the first house of self, which is ruled by Aries. There's the second house of income, which is ruled by Taurus. There's the third house of communication, ruled by Gemini. There's the fourth house of home life, ruled by Cancer. The fifth house of romance and self-expression, ruled by Leo. The sixth house of daily routine and wellness, ruled by Virgo. The seventh house of partnership, ruled by Libra. The eighth house of emotional bonds, sex, and joint resources, ruled by Scorpio. The ninth house of adventure and higher learning, ruled by Sagittarius. The 10th house of career and public image, ruled by Capricorn. And the 11th house of networking, long-term wishes, and friendship, ruled by Aquarius. And the 12th house of spirituality, ruled by Pisces. And in truth, I have no idea how the houses work, and I try to learn so much, and it was just very, very confusing and complicated for me. So on top of this, though, you don't just have like your chart. That's just your chart. This doesn't even get into things about like how planets move around us all the time that affect us right now. So one of the biggest ones I think of is retrogrades.
Oh, yeah, like Mercury in retrograde.
Right.
Which we all, I think at the, what did we call it at the office in Gatorade?
Yeah, Mercury and Gatorade. So basically retrogrades are just periods of time when a planet looks like it's moving backward in its orbit from our point of view on Earth. It's just an optical illusion, obviously, like the planets aren't moving backwards. That would be impossible. But apparently it still can spell big trouble for people astrologically speaking. So since Mercury controls communication, for example, when Mercury's in retrograde, that means communication gets all fucked. So one example I read was like, yeah, you might just like accidentally text the wrong person, but also you might just break your whole phone because it's a communication device. So that's when people are like, technology's fucking up. It's like communication-based technology.
Okay, so I thought like the way that people describe like, or pop culture describes Mercury in retrograde makes it just seem like everything is fucked up, but it's only communication. But I guess
so much is based on communication.
I guess you can like, a lot of things are communication, like
yes, the internet.
Yeah, that's true.
Most technology is communication based.
That is true. So
yeah.
Like what a car, because I feel like weirdly like my car always fucks up when people are like, it's Mercury in retrograde.
Oh, interesting.
But it's more like I'm communicating with my car by letting me go from place to place.
To see
I like
people.
how I'm just like making a
yeah.
That's what astrology is.
They get you.
It makes you make a new connection where maybe there wasn't one before.
Yes.
And kind of stretch things.
Well, Mercury goes into retrograde 3 or 4 times a year for a few weeks at a time, which is a lot. But every planet actually retrogrades at some point. And if a planet was in retrograde when you were born, you're gonna just learn some hard lessons about whatever the fuck that planet was probably over your life. So, Kenna, both of our charts have retrogrades.
I fucking knew it. God damn it, I fucking knew this shit.
Okay, so we have 3 retrogrades in common, and then you have an additional 4th. All right. So the one you have that I don't have, you were born when Mercury was in retrograde.
Hell yeah. I always was fucking goth. And I knew it. I was always goth.
Okay, so this is interesting because I do think this sounds like you. People born during Mercury retrograde are especially deep thinkers and possess a more philosophical nature. They take in information differently than others and tend to have a unique perspective on life, as well as an eccentric or quirky sense of humor.
Oh, I'm the manic.
You're the funny woman.
Green chick.
Green woman.
I'm the manic pixie green woman from Mars.
So these people also might take a longer amount of time to make decisions or communicate. It might take you longer.
That is true, as you can hear on this podcast.
But they're often reviewing and double checking information, and that's why.
Oh, yeah, I always double check everything, but like when I was doing customer service, you heard me. I would reread every email multiple times, but then that way when I got the perfect email, like I could just reference it every time to like go back to.
Yeah, so okay, so that one's just you. The next ones we both have. So we both have Jupiter in retrograde. And those with Jupiter retrograde in the birth charts often have unique, eccentric, or unusual perspectives, morals, and belief systems. So they like to form their own point of view regarding life, and rather than just following like the dictations of society, they would just like come up with their own way of doing things. And these individuals don't often feel that they're gifted genuine luck in life, so they become focused on mastering their own luck by becoming very like planning focused. So I think this is really me, all of this, obviously.
Yeah, it's weird. I simultaneously feel lucky and unlucky. But that's astrology.
That's astrology. You're both. It's a human thing.
Sometimes I'm lucky, but sometimes I'm unlucky.
You're unlucky. Yeah.
And sometimes I'm a neutral.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm neutral lucky.
Neutral luck. The next one is Uranus in retrograde.
We got that.
We did.
Sorry.
There's a lot of Uranus.
Why
going
are
on
butts funny? Like, why are butts?
I don't even think it's butts. I think just the word anus is funny.
I think anus is funny. I also think,
and it's your anus. That's funny.
Like my butt.
Yeah, your anus. Yeah.
Yeah. Like also, I'm sorry. Farts are funny.
Right. So like, okay, I feel like you're really going to relate to this one. Okay. Someone with this in their birth chart may have great difficulty with change.
Like, I don't go to the same coffee shop every day, even though I moved and now I have to drive to it.
Yeah,
no.
So they also might not feel comfortable expressing their innate eccentricity, and authenticity.
Yeah, sometimes I hide that I'm a true weirdo.
They might
freak.
prefer to internalize them rather than share them with the world.
Yeah, it's not like I'm keeping secrets, but sometimes I feel like if I told how I really... Sometimes when I tell, like, you've seen it, like, when I am like, yeah, this thing, people are like, what? Excuse me?
It's cool though.
What?
We all like it. We all appreciate it, but it definitely, we're all like, wait, what? What's that for you?
Like, where I'm like, oh, this thing is like this. People are like, oh.
Yeah. Also, though, this is both of us. These are the wolves. This is the wolf and the Pomsky. Are you ready? People with this energy will focus on living a more traditional or structured life, but then suddenly erupt with rebellious tendencies that have been pent up and not expressed. So then there's a back and forth between order and chaos, and it's a lifelong theme. And this is exactly like how I need to blow up my life. And This is like your 7-year cycle.
Yeah, it's like mine is long, but like also like I'll, in many ways, like I am traditional, like I hold down I hold down a job, I hold down an apartment, but also like I had to work for myself for many years because like a traditional work environment, like I do not do well in. You know this.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
But also in another way, I'm very good at office work.
You are.
Like, I mean, you're better at spreadsheets than me.
I do love a spreadsheet.
This spreadsheet, like,
I do love
guru,
a spreadsheet.
I would say, like, if there was like a enlightened person who is at like they know all the galaxy brain of spreadsheets.
That's what I want. The last one we have are we share Neptune in retrograde.
Oh.
Okay, so people born during Neptune retrograde often have an extremely deep sense of spirituality and faith, but don't outwardly express it. I don't believe this part about myself at all. The only faith I have is like a political faith and a better world being possible, maybe, but that's kind of a stretch. But they may mask their vulnerabilities and compassion and prefer to keep the side of themselves hidden and private rather than sharing it with the world. And this could have to do with an inherent fear of trusting others, being hurt, or dreaming too big. So they tend to be guarded so they're not ultimately let down. And I feel like some of that kind of applies to me, but this one applies to me the least out of all of them so far.
I feel like this one applies to me. Like, I think too, like, I don't know if like spirituality is the word for it, but like I really admire the mysteries of life that are beautiful.
Yes. Okay.
Like,
all right.
I love things that are like beautiful, and I love things that are weird, and I love things that are like not ugly in like a violent way, but you're just like, ooh,
Yeah.
like gooey, like I love, like, I don't know, like things that are indescribable, like poetry.
I do not love poetry.
I'm trying to act like I put my monocle on, like I love a good poetry.
Oh gosh.
Like I love that shit. Like I love like literature. I love movies.
Yeah, you do. You're that's why you're like an art person. You understand art more than me.
But I think in a sense, like, I don't know if it's spiritual per se, but I think it's like, I think you like it too, but you would call it something more like community.
Yeah.
Or like the feeling of like what the French, like in the French sense of like fraternity.
Yes.
Like like the liberté, fraternidad, fraternity.
Yeah, no, I get
fraternity, what you mean. Like,
the brotherhood of man.
Camaraderie.
Yes. So, all of this, it sounds pretty scientific. It's got a lot of data. But, we're going to get into the accuracy of astrology here. And the fact remains, there is absolutely no scientific evidence that any of this stuff has anything to do with your personality or your future or your life. Which I don't even think fans of astrology would take issue with that statement, because there's Shelley von Strunkel, who's an American astrologer and horoscope writer, and she's got columns that appear in like the Sunday Times, London Evening Standard, Chinese Vogue, all these major publications. But she says, astrology just isn't that empirical in the way that like physics would be. And I think this makes sense because, look, you either believe astrology is a spiritual practice, and spirituality often relies on ritual, which astrology provides in like the charting system, or maybe you believe it's culturally bound, meaning the effects are bound to play out in subtle ways that reflect sociological influence rather than like scientific things, like me deciding to become more of a Leo when I was a kid because I was so shy. Or you believe it's entirely fake, so it's not really relevant how fake or real it is at all. Any way you cut it, though, most people, 55%, based on a 2012 survey, do not think astrology is scientific, and science agrees. Right? So most people are like, yeah, we know it's not scientific. It's just fun, and we like it, and there's something we can get out of it.
For entertainment purposes
only, and it's very entertaining. So a 1985 study was done on the accuracy of astrology, right? All of these kind of scientific studies they do trying to gauge the merit of astrology, it never shows up with good results. So this 1985 study was published in the journal Nature, and Dr. Sean Carlson of the University of California at Berkeley's physics department found that seasoned astrologers were unable in this study to match an individual star chart with the results of a personality test any better than random chance. And in a second test, individuals were unable to choose their own star charts detailing their astrologically divined personality and character traits any better than chance as well. Yeah. So then there was a 1990 study, which was conducted by John McGrew and Richard McFall of Indiana University Psychology Department, and it was designed with a group of astrologers. And they found that these astrologers were no better at matching star charts to the corresponding comprehensive case file of a volunteer than a non-astrologer control subject or random chance. And moreover, the astrologers didn't even agree with each other when trying to assign it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, then there was a 2003 study, which was conducted by a former astrologer, Dr. Jeffrey Dean, and psychologist Dr. Ivan Kelly. And they tracked the lives of 2,000 subjects who were all born within minutes of one another over several decades. And the theory was that if astrological claims about star position and birth dates were true, then the individuals would have shared similar traits based on those things, and they did not. But, like we said at the top of the episode, like Kenna said, and I agree, it doesn't really matter if it's real. Dr. Chris French, a professor of psychology at London's Goldsmith College who studies belief in the paranormal, says that the straightforward answer is that according to all these different scientific studies, astrology does not work in that it's not accurate. But he says, you've got the other question. Does astrology provide any psychological benefit? Does it have a psychology function? And the answer to that is sometimes yes. So, according to the Smithsonian, there's this like really good kind of big quote that I think just like sums it up way better than I ever could. Psychologists see people on a scale between those who have what's called an external focus of control, where they feel that they are being acted upon by forces out of their influence, and people with an internal focus of control who believe that they are actors. Not so surprisingly, people who believe in astrology tend to have an external locus of control. The observation tallies with what other psychologists have found, like Margaret Hamilton, a psychologist at the University of Wisconsin, found that people are more likely to believe favorable horoscopes. And, she noted that people who are believers in astrology also tend to be more anxious or neurotic. And as an anxious, neurotic person, I get why it's appealing.
It's funny because I actually I'm one of those people who has an internal locus of control.
Yeah.
Is it locus or focus?
It's locus, but I misread it the first time.
Okay, gotcha.
I said focus, but it is locus.
I have an internal locus of control, like, to the point of where it's, like, not helpful, where I'm just like, I did this thing, and it's like, It's
like a spectrum, we exist somewhere on the spectrum, probably.
I definitely am more on, like, sometimes I'm like, this person did this to me, but I tend to be like, well, I was,
There's a lot of circumstances at play.
Yeah, so I see how people who think that things are happening to them rather than making things happen would gravitate towards astrology because it provides some level of control.
Right. So Margaret Hamilton, also, she said, newspaper horoscopes offer a bit of comfort, a sort of seeing through the veil on a casual level. And this other, guy, Dr. Chris French, who was the professor of psychology at Goldsmith College, French agrees. Astrology and newspaper horoscopes can give people some kind of sense of control and some kind of framework to help them understand what's going on in their lives. It's telling that in times of uncertainty, whether on a global, national, or personal level, he notes astrologers, psychics, and others who claim to be able to offer guidance do a pretty brisk business. That belief in astrology is apparently on the rise in America, according to an NSF survey published in 2014, and that might have something to do with recent financial uncertainty. Philosophically, there's something about reading horoscopes that does imply a placing of oneself. As Hamilton notes, it allows you to see yourself as part of the world. Here's where I fit in. I'm a Pisces. Looking deeper, Baggini, the philosopher, explains human beings are pattern seekers. We have a very, very strong predisposition to notice regularities in nature and the world to the extent that we see more than there are. There are good evolutionary reasons for this. In short, a false positive is less risky than failure to observe a truth. But more to the point, we also tend to think things happen for a reason, and we tend to leap upon whatever reason's available to us, even if it's not entirely credible. So that's the quote. And basically, psychologists are like, look, if you feel stressed out and anxious and afraid of the unknown, reading something that tells you everything's going to work out exactly the way it's supposed to, or everything's going to work out like this, and then just lays it out, that's going to offer you comfort. Now you have this sense of control. You have a sense that there's a greater plan at work. Everything's either going to be okay, or if it's bad, you're going to know how you're supposed to proceed. And this is probably why during the pandemic, astrologers all reported an uptick in business.
Yeah, you know what else I was thinking about in terms of like astrology and like stories we tell to have like locus of control?
Yeah.
Is the rise of also like conspiratorial thinking during the pandemic. Because, some of these things like, whatever, these stories, like they explain things in a very concrete way. Like this happened because of this, not because of the universe is chaotic and who knows what's going to fucking happen. You know what I mean?
It does give you a sense of control. I think also there's a thing at play here, which we talked about in our episode Haunted and Loving It a bit, which you weren't here for. It was when David did a guest episode.
When I was out sick.
Yeah. But this is kind of this idea that mysticism and mystical thinking is often relegated to like a lower class status socially in society. So like science is dominated by white men, right? 48.7% of scientists working in the US in 2015 were white men specifically, even though they made up just 31% of the American population. And in this way, white men are able to position themselves as authorities on the truth, which means a lot of the ways that people from other cultural or ethnic or gender-based experiences of the world relate to each other through like more maybe intuitive experiences, more communication-based experiences that allow for a lack of precision in favor of social grace. Now science is able to deride and diminish those experiences in the name of objective truth, when in reality, it's actually kind of like a patriarchal white supremacist mode of thinking.
Yeah, I hate when, like, especially, like, dudes are like, this is not rational.
Right, exactly. The idea of masculinity and rationality, like, coming hand in hand in some way. And it is just this way of, like, imposing a certain hierarchical structure to how people interact with the world and each other.
Yeah, like if you talk about things in like an emotional, like not factual, but like scientific way, then you're fucking stupid.
Right,
Like that's
exactly.
the vibe that it gets.
That's
Like
totally
if
the vibe.
you're like if you bring any sort of like emotion, which I think actually like bringing emotion into it makes something like 3D.
It really does,
Because
yeah.
like you can't separate yourself out of your body, out of your feelings.
Right.
Like
Your emotional reality is part of it. And also that's like a thing about kind of like history, for example. Originally when people were historians or anthropologists even, they would try to be like, oh no, we have no subjectivity. This is
we're
all
robots.
just fact. Right. But then what ended up happening is the lack of subjectivity, in air quotes put in anthropology and or history, ended up perpetuating systems of white supremacy because these were fields mostly dominated by white people. And by refusing to acknowledge the fact that this assessment was coming through a white lens, it was otherizing a lot of experiences that for many people were normal, and they were only actually othered from the position of white culture,
Yeah.
which imposed that supremacy and that hierarchy there.
It's like the episode we did on the algorithm, the
Yes.
racist ghost in the machine. Like
Yeah.
how like they're like, no, this is like these algorithms, these robots, these AI, they're neutral. But it's like, no, they're not, because the people creating the AI are mostly white dudes.
Right. And it all has that bias.
Yeah, so they have the lens of a white dude. So that's why all these fucking chatbots become racist.
Exactly. And also, men hate astrology for a reason, right? Because it's a way that a lot of feminine people communicate with each other. And yes, in case you're wondering if this is true, women are more likely than men to say that they believe in astrology. 1 in 3 women will say they believe in astrology, while only around 1 in 4 men will. And also, yes, white people are more likely to hate astrology too. White Americans are less likely than Black and Hispanic Americans, for example, to be believers in astrology.
Interesting.
So when you look at these figures, you see that deriding things in the name of science actually is sometimes, yes, synonymous with deriding things in the name of a white patriarchal perspective. One that positions science as the most important truth through which, we're supposed to guide all of our interactions with each other. Instead, though, what we see is that other cultural experiences that allow for understanding in different levels, for those, maybe the hard truth matters less than the interpersonal experience of relating to another human being. That has more value. So in short, it doesn't actually matter if astrology is fake nearly as much as it matters whether or not you're an asshole to a person who's excited to learn that you're a Pisces.
Yeah, like I think like a lot of our like philosophy on this pod is just like, don't be an asshole.
Right, it's true. And
Don't
also
let your Uranus be in retrograde. So.
Also, though, when you look at it and you're like, well, statistically, the people most excited to learn that you're a Pisces are probably going to be women of color. Yeah, there's also this politically and socially motivated incentive for white people, and especially white men, to maybe just shut the fuck up and let people enjoy cultural experiences, even if it includes astrology, something that, yeah, science knows isn't real, who cares, rather than trying to shut it down with hard empiricism all the time. And on top of that, even if astrology itself isn't super scientifically founded and blah, 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 there are these tangential scientific experiences that came from astrology that are valuable. Like we talked about earlier in the episode, like astrology gave us geography and astronomy and advanced forms of geometry. Also, interestingly enough, people with a moderate understanding of science are more likely to believe in astrology than people with like no understanding of science.
Interesting.
Yeah. And this is why many people refer to astrology as being the grandmother of modern science. It did concern itself with regularities in the universe which could be observed, and it also tried to deal with them numerically. It also spawned innovation in science that, yes, led to other developments. And something else I think is interesting is that unlike the capitalist myth that we all can like bootstrap ourselves into being Elon Musk or something, there is something interesting about astrology, and that it seems to say, look, some people are just born a certain way and that will affect them their whole lives. And no matter how hard they try, they might not ever be able to be as rich and successful, for example, as someone else. I happen to think the reason for that isn't based on the stars so much as it is based on privilege and class and luck. Things like how much money the community you're born into has, how many connections your family and peer groups have, how many resources you generally have available to you as you're aging. But I think that if you realize people start from a different place on the board, even if you're coming to that conclusion because you think the stars made it so, it's probably a net positive because you're at least having this fundamental understanding that all people are not born in the same position with the same resources available. And if that's communicated through an understanding of astrology, That's fine. At least you're getting to the point where you're like, you know what? We're all different and we don't have the same tools available to us. And everybody's brain operates in a different way. And we all bring different things to the table. Like maybe you know someone who doesn't do as well in school naturally as someone else. Science and data might show that it's probably because of, you know, their family's education level, their income level, the neighborhood they're going to school in, systemic racism, systemic resource allocation issues that like tend to favor rich people over poor people, right? But astrology might say it's because you're not a Virgo, so you'll never be organized enough or something, right? But both offer an out beyond this idea of personal accountability. And I just kind of like that. It gets to the right point, which is that not everybody is this like individual American exceptionalist myth. It gets to the point where not everybody can do that, just in different ways. And there is some truth to the idea that maybe where you're born and how you're born and when you're born does influence you a bit.
Yeah.
There could be elements of this that don't play out quite in the mystical way, but really in the more practical way. Like where you are born does have a huge significant impact on your life.
Yeah.
Also, when you're born has a little bit of an impact we're learning too. Like scientists have studied the way that the amount of vitamin D via sunlight a person gets when they're pregnant ends up manifesting in their child's like mental health and development. And that actually, yeah, is largely dependent on when the child is born and where they're born. So people born in the fall, for example, have actually been found to be more likely slightly to develop panic disorders or drug abuse problems.
Whoa.
Yeah, people born in late winter and early spring might be slightly more likely to become schizophrenic. And in spring and early summer, some people might have propensities for certain issues like suicide or dyslexia. These are things people are still studying, but there could be these really like tangential roundabout ways that where and when you're born do impact your life in this serious way. So again, those are still being studied. They're not like super concrete things about the vitamin D, but I just think it's interesting. So along with this, you know, I just thought this would be like a fun way for us to close out the episode. There are actually some trends that, for whatever reason, do happen to be related to people's signs.
Ooh.
So I thought, Kenna, we could kind of close out the episode doing a little test to see if you can guess the answers.
Cool. And now I realize I may have been overconfident earlier because now I probably
I think you're gonna do great. No, I think you're gonna do great. I think it's gonna be great.
I have low expectations.
Okay, so basically, just tell me what sign you think, sun signs only, is the correct answer for each of these questions. And in the process, we're going to learn that there is some overlap, for whatever reason, with real quantifiable data trends and astrological signs. Even if it's just coincidence, we don't know.
Wow.
But there is. Okay, you ready?
Sure.
What sign is most likely to become president?
Capricorn?
It is Scorpio.
Whoa!
I know. 5 presidents have been Scorpios, the most compared to any other sign. And fun fact, Virgo and Aries are the least likely to become presidents.
Interesting.
All right. Okay. Number 2, what sign is most likely to regularly go to a gym?
Leo?
It is Leos.
Whoa!
Leos are twice as likely to go to a gym compared to any other sign. Okay, number 3. What sign is most likely to become a child star?
Taurus?
It's actually Sagittarius.
Interesting.
Fire sign. 1 in 5 child stars are Sagittarians, including Britney Spears and Scarlett Johansson.
Wow.
Yes. All right. Number 4. What sign is most likely to get traffic violations?
Gemini?
It's actually Leos. And this checks out because when I was a teenager, I drove extremely fast, like 120 miles an hour everywhere, and got so many speeding tickets.
Oh my gosh, I have, like, knock on wood, like, I have never gotten a speeding ticket.
Oh my god, that's amazing. But fun fact, Taurus are the most likely to have injury damage claims for their insurance. So, you know, traffic violations, but not necessarily collision is what the Leos are doing.
We're just driving fast.
I'm driving fast. Okay, number 5. What sign is most likely to be on the adultery dating website Ashley Madison?
Leo?
It's Capricorns. All right, number 6. Which sign is most likely to be a billionaire?
Scorpio?
It is Libra.
Oh.
So that means we need to change all of our punk patches from Eat the Rich to Eat the Libras.
I feel like we know Libra.
I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe Baby Lunks?
I think
Baby
so.
Lunks a Libra? I always, when I was a kid, when I was first learning about astrology, I was like, Libras are the fun sluts. Yeah. Okay. Number 7. Which sign is most likely to be an athlete?
Gemini.
It is Aquarius.
Oh.
21% of the most formidable athletes in recent history are Aquarius.
Interesting.
All right, number 8. You might know this one already. Which sign is most likely to be a serial killer? It is a tie, so we will accept either of the 2 right answers.
Scorpio?
No, I thought you knew this because we talked about this work. It's Gemini and Pisces.
Whoa.
Yeah, Camilla was very proud to share with us the Gemini correlation. And also Camilla loves not all Geminis. Number 9, what signs are most likely to earn a 6-figure salary? There are 4 answers here, actually. So if you can get any of them, maybe you can get one of them.
Aries?
No, wow.
Wow, I knew I was going to be bad
okay.
at this.
You know, it's the end of the episode. We're a little tired. It is Scorpio, Leo, Cancer, and Taurus.
Oh, we're up there.
Okay, number 10. What signs are most likely to earn less than $35,000 per year?
Taurus?
It is Aquarius and Capricorn.
Oh.
I know, right? Number 11. What signs are most likely to be happy with their jobs?
Like Cancer?
No, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Pisces.
Oh.
In fact, Cancers and Geminis are the signs most likely to hate their jobs.
Oh.
Yeah. So, what does this all mean for astrology? I think it just means what Kenna and I have always kind of figured, right? It's a fun way to talk to people and relate to people, and it's a good foundational kind of thought process that encourages people to view each other as unique and different with rich inner worlds and different possibilities that we might not have ourselves. It might not be true, not in a scientific way that's super meaningful anyhow, but that doesn't mean it's not real because it really affects how people interact with each other, and that is culturally significant in some capacity and affects how we all exist in the world. So we think in the end, just like our episode on the paranormal, it doesn't hurt anybody, and it communicates something about ourselves to the people around us and allows us to be introspective and learn things about ourselves. And that all sounds pretty chill and like it's not worth being too mad at.
Yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
For entertainment purposes only. Astrology. That's it. Do you have anything else to add about the astrology episode, Kenna?
Nope.
No. And if you would like to hear about tarot cards, that will be something we get into on our bonus episode of our Patreon.
Yeah.
Patreon.com.
And I will reveal what houses or what sign my Mars and Mercury are in.
Oh, yes. And we will also post our full charts available to view
on the Patreon.
Patreon.com/pickmeupimscared.
For $2 a month.
$2 a month right now.
The price is going to go up,
Yeah, we're wheeling and dealing here. We're working the Patreon. I'm really proud of us.
Yeah, we're trying.
We're trying.
So get in while the getting in is good.
Yeah, I
feel
that.
like I'm
It's a good
selling
sales pitch.
stocks and bonds.
Yeah, I was thinking used cars. We're selling used cars.
Yes.
Yeah, they're the same. What's the difference though? They're all, that is what it is. It's salespeople either way. Okay, that's the episode.
Yep.
Woo! Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Pick Me Up, I'm Scared. If you would like to join us on Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/pickmeupimscared. And like always, all of our sources will be in the show description if you just scroll down a bit. Our Patreon is currently starting at $2 per month, but if that's too much money for you, we totally get it, and we're just happy you're here.